considers applications for minor variances from the provisions of the zoning bylaw, permissions to extend or alter lawful non-conforming uses, and consents to create new lots. To ensure a fair and timely hearing, I will vet the agenda to determine which applications can be dealt with immediately on this morning's time slot and which applications require more in-depth review. So I'll start off by vetting the agenda. I'll call each item on the agenda by both its municipal address and its position on the agenda, and I'll ask if the applicant or agent is present. Just put up your hand to let us know that you're here, and then I'll ask if there's anyone else on this application in interest. And you can put up your hand. If there are people in interest, that matter will be held to the end of the time slot. And we recommend in those situations that you meet outside the room with the interested parties to perhaps understand the variances, to perhaps narrow the issues or resolve the concerns of the neighbors. If there's no person in present interest, then we'll start off with those applications, and we'll call at that point the agent or applicant to proceed with their presentation if required. The committee may ask questions and/or take the matter into committee for a decision. When you make your submissions, each speaker, including the agent or applicant, will be given a maximum of 5 minutes to address the committee. When addressing the committee, please come forward to the podium, hand in your white decision request card to the staff on my right, and then go to the podium and clearly state your name and address for the record. And if you have written submissions that you're reading from, please hand in a copy to staff before you leave. The applicant will have 5 minutes to present the merits of their application. If it's a very straightforward application, I'll ask committee members if they feel they need a presentation. If not, we'll just proceed to questions or perhaps just proceed to a motion. Then individuals, after the applicant has presented their application, individuals either in support or opposed to the application will be allowed to express their views. If there are several speakers present on a particular application, we would ask that you present a spokesperson to present the group's opinion. We want to hear your views. However, repeating the same concerns over and over again will not advance your cause. And certainly if the neighbors, there's someone wants to speak from some other perspective or to raise other issues, they'll certainly be given an opportunity to speak and address the committee if they wish, but we just ask that you don't repeat the same concerns. Committee members may ask questions of each of the speakers when they're finished speaking, and when all speakers are finished, the applicant is given, or agent is given, an opportunity to come back up and to rebut those related issues that have been raised by the neighbors, not to represent their application or to give us any new information, but just to respond to the issues that have been raised by the neighbors. The matter is then taken into committee for a decision, and that will mark the end of all discussion, and we will require no further input from the applicant or the neighbors unless the committee addresses a question to them. Please also remember to confine your remarks to the matters outlined in the application. We don't deal with personal issues, we don't deal with construction issues, we deal with the planning issues of the before us. The decision. Once we make a decision, if you don't agree with the committee's decision, whether you're the neighbor or the applicant, you have the right of appeal. Appeals are now almost all dealt with a tribunal called Toronto Local Appeal Body, or TLAB. And for more information about TLAB, please visit the TLAB or Committee of Adjustment websites. Appeal instructions are included at the bottom of every decision, and in order to receive a copy of the committee's decision and to be informed of appeal proceedings, you must fill out one of those white decision request cards. They're, I believe, at the two ends of the room, and leave a copy with staff. They're over at the tables over there with some placards. And it's very important, especially if you fill that out and put your email address, because in the event of an appeal, a TLAB will be sending out their notifications and appeal updates by email. And decisions will be mailed out within 3 business days. So we have some preliminary business to take care of. First of all, declaration of confirmation of the last meeting's minutes. That's, I believe, the February the 13th. So moved by Mr. Nipfel. Seconder for that?
I'll second.
All in favor? The minutes are approved. Anyone have any declarations of interest to declare on these morning's matters on this morning's agenda? Okay, none to declare. Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there any files that are being closed? Okay. Are there any applicants here today who wish to withdraw their application? Okay. And so I'll now vet the 9 o'clock time slot. And we'll see who's here and who's ready to go and which applications will be put off. First application, item number 1, 26 Ossington Avenue. Is the applicant or agent here?
I'm actually seeking an adjournment on this matter so we can address the...
Maybe we're going to go through and vet first, and then you'll come up and
Sure.
call the application.
Absolutely.
So is there any neighbors here on item number 1, 26 Ossington? No? Okay, so we'll be dealing with you as soon as we
Thank you.
vet the agenda about your adjournment request or deferral request. Item number 2, 125 Leslie Street. The applicant agent? Any neighbors present on 125 Leslie Street? Okay, that will not be held. Items 3 to 5, they're all sort of interrelated, 1598 to 1600 Queen, 1602 Queen, and 1604 Queen. The applicant agent? Okay, are there any neighbors present on the Queen Street East applications?
Yeah, okay.
Any neighbors here? No. Okay, they won't be held. Item number 6, 255 Chisholm Avenue. Is the applicant here? Thank you. Applicant agent. Any neighbors present on 255 Chisholm? Okay, that won't be held. Item 7, 47 Ellerbeck Street. Applicant's agent, thank you. Any neighbors here on Ellerbeck Street? Okay, maybe. Item number 8, 23 Kanaan Avenue. Is the applicant or agent here? So far, everyone's made it through the snow. Any neighbors present on Connaught?
Yes, sir, I'll be representing the neighbors.
Okay, so that item will be held, and if you want to, Mr. Kennedy, you want to put up your, I don't know if you've met or had any discussions, or if you'd like to have a discussion outside, you're certainly welcome to do so. It's not mandatory, however. 1046 and 1052 Pape Avenue. Applicant agent. Any neighbors present on Pape Avenue? Item number 10, 65 Glenshaw Crescent. Applicant agent, thank you. Any neighbors present on Glenshaw? Okay, there's, you want to put up your hand again? I don't know if you'd like to have a discussion outside before, just to see that you understand the variances, understand what's being done, and if you can discuss your concerns, see if anything can be resolved, and or you can sit and watch the other applications. Number 11, 1294 Woodbine Avenue. Applicant agent, thank you. Any neighbors present on 1294 Woodbine? Item 12, 126 Rexleigh Drive. Is the applicant or agent here behind the pole? Okay. Any neighbors present on 126 Rexleigh? Nope. Item number 13, 21 Albermarle. Okay, you're the agent. Any neighbors present on Albermarle? No. Item 14, 31A Frankdale Avenue. Applicant or agent? Thank you. Thank you. Any neighbors on 31A Frankdale? Okay, that item will be held. If you want to put up your hand and see if you want to have a discussion outside. Item number 15, 1302 Woodbine Avenue. Applicant agent. Any neighbors present on 1302 Woodbine? Okay, that won't be held. Item 16, 12 Norlong Boulevard. Applicant agent, thank you. Any neighbors here on 12 Norlong? No. And last item on the morning agenda, number 17, 145 Queen Street East. The applicant or agent here? Okay, I guess maybe they're stuck in the snow. And any neighbors present on 145 Queen? Okay, so to recap, the items that are being held are items 8, 10, and 14. And other than that, we'll start at the top of the agenda and work our way through and come back to those 3 items at the end after we've dealt with all the uncontested matters. So item number 1, 26 Ossington Avenue. Mr. Marco, this is to construct a new 3-story mixed-use building containing 7 dwelling units.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members. Again, I'm seeking an adjournment on this matter to address some neighbors' issues and also clarification for planning.
Sorry, clarification?
Planning,
What type of
we're
clarification?
going to have to go through a planning site amendment or application. So I was speaking to the planner.
You mean that you have to get a planning review to identify the
Of
variances?
course,
It looks like
it's
you're
a
on
site
waiver.
plan application regardless. It's a new reconstruction.
Oh, so you have to go through site plan on this?
I have to. It's part of the process.
Yeah,
So how do we, if you haven't done that, how are we supposed to, because typically we don't like to clog up with held items or deferred items?
That
The variance is
application
going to be the
has
same?
We have to process it. There could be modification. I don't know. Again, I provided the committee members documents. The building has suffered fire damages.
Right.
But regardless, it's coming down. There's also a report in there.
When did you know that you needed to go through site plan control? Because that could result in substantial changes to your proposal, right?
We knew about it, but there was different issues in the building of how we were going to approach it, because we're not rebuilding the building the way it is. Under the Fire Marshals Act, we can rebuild it without any issues at all and even waive any fees. But the actual footprint has been changed. So
It's been changed from what we have before us?
no. It was changed from what it was as prior to the fire, or the way it exists today.
So what you're proposing, it changes the footprint?
Absolutely.
So how long would it take for you to go through all the...
Well, the application is going to be going in this week.
Yeah, but how long, do you have any...
Oh, does the site plan usually takes? Rule of thumb, it could take up to 60 to 90 days. We do have the application. We've had some issues getting a hold of our client. We got the contractor, which we use as a medium, but the application is going in shortly. So if it could be deferred, sign and die, then I could bring it back.
Would you be agreeable to withdrawing the application? It sounds to me like you're a long way from coming before this board.
Again, it could be around 90 days. It's not going to be a
That doesn't
major...
mean you'll be here in 90 days.
Pardon?
That doesn't mean you'll be here in 90 days. We need a resolved application before you can be considered for an agenda.
And like you said, the variances may change in any event. So yeah, what if we defer for 3 months, and if you're not ready in 3 months, then the file gets closed?
I guess if it has to be that way, I guess so.
Mr. Chairman, I would make that motion.
Okay, seconder for that motion? All in favor? Okay, the matter's been deferred for a maximum of 3 months, and if not ready at that point, the
I hear you.
application will be...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members.
Thank you, Mr. Demar. Okay, item number 2. 125 Leslie Street. This is an application to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing... Sir? Oh, it is? Okay. We're usually in the other room. This room's a little foreign to us. That's okay. Thanks for letting us know. So this is an application to alter the existing 2-story dwelling, detached dwelling. Is that better? By constructing a front ground floor addition, a front covered porch, a rear addition on the south side of the building, a new rear ground floor deck, a front second-story addition, a new rear detached garage. We have a letter from the agent. We have covering letter from the agent. We have another covering letter from the agent first February 5th, then February 22nd, and another letter of explanation from the 25th. And we have 5 form letters of support, and that's all we have on this application. 3 letters from you. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, committee members. My name is Paul Dowsett, the agent for the owners. We actually have 10 signatures of support, so we have some additional ones here to give to you.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like the ones you have right now are in the 143, 144, 46, 47, 49, but none that are sort of more proximate.
Okay, so now you can see on the screen, we've indicated all the addresses of support, including the neighbors directly on either side, both the owners and the tenants of those properties. So our clients have done a very good job of
See,
canvassing the neighborhood.
123, this came in February, dated February 23rd and February 20th. 123, 2 signatures from 123. Where's 127?
Should be in there. Oh, it jumps. That's that.
Oh, so it's the
Yeah.
the ones that like 147, so it's,
Next door neighbor is 143.
oh, it is,
to
okay.
125.
Okay.
Don't ask me.
Quite a jump.
Yeah. Is that a real question?
Pass that over to Pape, I guess. Okay. Committee members, do you want a short presentation from the agent? We have quite a lot of, pictures. We have a diagram
Chairman,
showing.
I think this is a very straightforward application unless other people have questions. I'd like to move approval of the application. I note that there is in fact support, particularly from the adjacent neighbors, and I think it's a reasonable development for the area, and I'd like to move approval.
I'll second it. I've reviewed the application thoroughly, and I'm in agreement with my colleagues.
Okay, all in favor? You have your approval, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next application is the 3, 4, and 5. We'll call those all together. This is on Queen Street, 1598 to 1600 Queen Street, which is the one that's sort of new, and the other 2 applications, item number 4 for 1602 and item number 5 for 1604, appear to be to correct an error on a previous decision at committee.
That is correct, Mr. Chairman.
And we have on us covering letter from Neil Rogers, agent, previous decisions affecting the property, exhibit list from Neil Rogers, including zoning map of surrounding neighborhood, streetscape photos, floor plans, and elevations. And we have correspondence and support from half of Nob Hill Farms
Correct.
at 1598 and 1600, which is,
Are you dealing with numbers 4 and 5?
yes.
All right, okay, sorry.
I'm just dealing with them all together. So why don't we deal with item number 3 first?
Okay.
That's when we have, planning has no concern with that. And we have correspondence from 1597 Queen Street East in support, no opposition.
That's correct.
Okay. Why don't you give us a
97, right
little
beside.
presentation of what's,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The proposal is to demolish the existing structures and construct on each lot, if approved, a 6-story mixed-use building, non-residential uses at grade and 5 stories above grade. Parking will be provided at the rear of the lot, accessed by the existing municipal right-of-way. Also note that this development proposal is similar, in fact, almost a mirror image of the ones to the immediate east, 1602 and 1604. The application is compliant with the official plan. It meets the policies of the Ashbridges Bay Urban Design Guidelines. And the variances are being sought are both under 438 and 569. In terms of context, within close proximity to the site, there are now 3 buildings, 2 existing Toronto community housing buildings on the south side of Queen Street, as well as a building under construction to the east of this site, about maybe 100 to so 100 yards, at 1624 and 1630 Queen Street, which are also 6 stories in height. So the area is undergoing a transformation. Right. And I would like to note for the committee's consideration also that there is a vacant parcel of land on the Toronto community housing lands, which will also be soon the subject of development application and activity. Before I go...
Across the street, is that?
Correct, at the corner of Eastern Avenue and Coxwell.
Oh, okay.
Okay? The northwest corner. I'd also want to identify for the committee's benefit, there are a number of variances that we are no longer seeking, and this is a result of extensive consultations we have had with planning staff as a result of the site planning process that has been underway. I will identify those as number 5 and number 9 as they are pursuant to 569-2013, and number 6 as it relates to 438-86.
Yeah, that's the bicycle parking located in the building as opposed to not in the building.
Correct.
And
correct.
item 5 is the platform or similar structure.
It's the height of the retail at grade,
Right. Platform
vertical
projection.
height. Yeah,
Okay, so that's, you no longer need that, you no longer
Correct.
need 9, and you no longer need 6 under the old bylaw.
correct. So what I will speak to briefly, if the committee so wishes, is the variances sought with respect to FSI and height.
Right.
FSI, the context here, I'd like to note, albeit under 438-86, the 1602 and 1604 applications were approved by the committee in June of 2018 for an FSI of 2.35.
Yes.
Subject to the approval of the committee for the item agenda number 5, that FSI number would increase to 2.55.
I think they're both similar, maybe we'll deal with that one, but your best precedent is the 2 that you're coming back with right after in items 4 and 5 to correct errors.
Correct.
So we can see that you got that.
Yeah, and we vigorously had conversations with Toronto Buildings and the zoning examiner to ensure that a similar situation would not occur, but it was one of those situations there where 438 is interpreted differently with respect to the calculation of FSI for various exclusions. Again, the variances, in our opinion, are minor and are within the intent and context of the neighborhood and previous approvals.
Okay.
With respect to...
I'm just curious, your FSI, both for residential and total, is in the application for 1598, 1600, is somewhat lower than the other 2. Is that just, is there any difference between, because it's sort of almost like a mirror image?
I can't...
You're only 2.07.
Yeah, I can't recall specifically why they may be slightly different. It could be as a result of the elevator, sort of the vestibule lobby to the leading to the elevators.
Okay.
With respect to building height, I spoke to the 1602 and 1604 applications, which were approved at 20 meters, which are consistent with the Ashbridges Bay urban design guidelines. 1600 Queen Street is requesting a variance to 20.61 meters. The additional difference, the difference between 1602 and 1600 is 0.61, and this is related to how the building is intended to function. Both floors on 1600 Queen Street, floors 5 and 6, will each have independent units requiring accessibility, where 1602, the 5th and 6th floors were a combined unit. So we had elevator access only up to the 5th floor, and then there is a staircase leading up to the 6th. So the elevator overrun is effectively that 0.61 meter. Also spoke earlier to 1624 and 1630, which is under construction right now. That is a 6-story building as well. However, its height, including the mechanical penthouse, is 24.5 meters.
Higher than you are.
It's higher. We have not been able to determine the geodetic height of the Toronto community housing buildings on the south side, but can only surmise that they are 6 stories and probably equal to or greater than what 1600 is currently seeking. I've spoken to items number 4 and other variances that are being sought. Many of the variances that are being sought are similar to what 1602 and 1604 were approved for in June of 2016. I would submit on behalf of the applicant that these variances are minor in nature. They meet the 4 tests of the Planning Act. There is planning support. There is departmental support across the city for these applications. And we look favorably to hearing your decision.
I have a question about the north elevation. There are 5 balconies overlooking what appear to be residential properties behind. Did I understand you to say that the proposal conforms with the Ashbridges Bay design guidelines, and do they refer to or speak to privacy issues such as that? And Can you talk to me a little bit about that privacy issue? Because that's a substantial overlook to residential properties. Was it dealt with, you said you've been through site plan control as well, right?
Correct, sir.
So was it dealt with during that deliberation?
We've had 1602 dates back to applications before the committee, as well as planning from dating back to 2017. At no time did planning staff speak to or were concerned about the overlook to the properties to the rear. No landowners to the, that would be to the north of that laneway appeared in opposition or spoke to them. We made efforts to reach out to them during the pre-consultation process. Quite frankly, staff, planning staff, urban design staff were more fixated on the Queen Street elevation at the 5th and 6th floors.
Okay, thank you.
So let's deal first with item number 3, and then we can follow up. So, any further follow-up questions? And I take it the error in items 4 and 5 was apparently because of the something to do with the elevator shaft not being included?
Correct.
So that's just to clarify in the calculation, that's why you're back here on those 2 applications.
We actually, to answer your question, although it's we're not talking about that one specifically, when we filed our building permit application, during that review, it came to our attention that we were out of compliance with the approval of the committee, and we came back to the committee, filed the application to correct this immediately.
Okay, so item number 3, 1598 to 1600 Queen Street. Do I have any further questions, or are we ready for a motion on that?
Is Nob Hill Farms Limited the owner of 1598, 1600 Queen?
Yes, they are, sir.
Okay, and the others are owned by Empire Holdings?
Empire 1630 Holdings Limited, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Make a motion? No.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application of 1598, 1600 Queen Street. I had some initial concerns about context, but I'm satisfied in that the project both complies with the Ashbridges Bay guidelines and it has gone through a site plan control process, that those concerns have been addressed. So on that basis, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application.
And I don't believe...
As amended.
As amended with those
yes.
3 deletions, and there's no conditions. I believe planning's not looking for any conditions of any sort. Okay, second by Mr. Grandestein, all in favor? Okay, you have your approval on item number 3. Item number 4 and 5 then, I guess we can deal with those together. They're basically identical. Seconded by Donald. Donald. It's okay. So now we have to deal with 4 and 5. So items 4 and 5, which is just to correct, was already before the committee in 2016. We're going to get a motion on that as well.
Yeah, I make a motion that the application 4 be approved, and I make a motion application 5 be approved. They're both technical matters, small, very minor error was made.
Okay. It's kind of convenient to have it back here, just make sure item number 3 has the support. You don't have to attach it, it's actually on the agenda.
We have triple checked that one, yes.
Seconder for that motion?
Second motion.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you, Mr. Rogers.
Thank you.
Okay, so item number 6, perhaps, okay. Item number 6 is 255 Chisholm Avenue.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and committee.
Just 1 second, please. Let me just introduce the application. This is an application to legalize and to maintain the rear detached storage shed that was constructed to the rear of the existing 2-story detached dwelling without a building permit. There is 1 variance, which is the lot coverage. And I believe we have before us the only thing we have is community planning requesting a condition of approval as to the specifying the coverage of the dwelling itself, exclusive any accessory structures. Sir, have you seen the staff memo? The planning staff? It's dated February 21st. Have you seen a copy of that?
Yes, I see.
Okay. Okay, so...
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, the committee members. My name is Shakil Ahmed, and I'm the agent and the partial owner of the property.
Okay.
I'm here to request the committee to legalize the maintain the rear detached storage shed of the property.
Okay.
The
It was
coverage,
built without a permit. Was that built by you or previous owner, or?
we built a house like 2015 and 16,
Okay.
and there was a small shed on the back before. And after finishing the construction, by somehow it was condition not very good. We knocked it down and we built it, but unfortunately this doesn't cover our lot.
Didn't realize that you had to come get that approval as well.
Yeah, lot cover that one when the inspector
So
came.
when you built, you didn't come to the committee, you built a house that complied with the zoning bylaw? Because usually they would give us the previous decision, so I guess
That time we didn't ask for any lot coverage that one is because whatever the,
house actually complies.
yeah.
And so you're okay with the condition that the planning department wants to specify that the coverage, notwithstanding your coverage for the total property is going to 44%, that the house will remain at 36.2%. The balance is the accessory structure. You're fine with that condition being imposed? That's just to see that you don't take that extra percentage of almost 8% and take down the shed and build an addition to the house without having to. So that's just to specify that you have a separate coverage for the house at 36.2, and the balance of 44% minus 36.2 is for the shed.
Yes, maybe, Mr.
You're
Because,
okay with that?
yeah.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant, or are we ready for a motion?
Move the application be approved. Subject to the planning condition.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Thank you, Mr. Ahmed. You have your approval. Thank you. Okay, item number 7 is 47 Ellerbeck Street. This is an application to alter the existing 2-story detached dwelling by constructing a rear 2-story addition. And we have Urban Forestry requesting condition number 2, and we have no other communication from city departments or from area neighbors. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Good. Get your name.
Nathan Bueller of Building Workshop, agent for the client.
Okay. Actually a question, do you know what the existing floor space index is before the construction of this rear 2-story addition that's proposed?
Yeah, it didn't actually print out very well on what was submitted to you, but there is an existing 2-story rear addition, so including that addition, the existing FSI is 68%.
Okay, so you're already over you're just adding 14%. So you're already quite over. And the second variance is already existing. The
Correct.
distance from the front lot line is an existing condition. Okay, committee members, any questions?
Forestry, some could do, I saw number 8, not on this one.
It's not, there's no urban forestry?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, does anyone have any questions for Mr. Bueller?
In terms of the depth of the 2-story addition, is it, from what I can see from the site plan and the drawings you've provided, is it roughly in line with the adjacent properties?
Exactly.
Okay. And they're both 2-story at least? Yep. Anybody have any other questions?
No.
I don't have any questions. You've answered my question with respect to floor space index and the setback in terms of the depth. So on that basis, I'm satisfied. I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application. In my view, it meets the 4 tests.
Thank you, Ms. Valentini. Okay, all in favor? Thank you, you have your approval. Okay, item 8 is being held, so we'll move over to item number 9, which is 1046 and 1052 Pape Avenue. This is an application to demolish the existing gas station, a single-story retail space, and to redevelop the property as the site of a 1-story commercial building with 10 surface parking spaces and 1 loading space at the rear. And we have on this application correspondence and opposition from 1042 Pape, and we have a covering letter from David Morse, Boosvelds, and that's all we have. Oh, Yeah, I said we have a letter of
Oh,
opposition.
sorry. I missed that.
Good morning. My name is David Morse of Bousfields, Inc., and I'm agent to the owner of 1052 Pape Avenue, Inc. I've included a couple covering letters which explain the background of the application and specifically the site plan process and the consultation we've done with planning staff. So I'd like to start by giving a little background with respect to the applications. So today I ask that you consider 5 minor variances to facilitate the development of a one-story commercial building that will appropriately frame Pape Avenue with a continuous street wall in line with the commercial/residential properties along the street. By way of background, about a year ago on February 20th, 2018, our project team met with planning staff to discuss the proposal, and we were advised to first apply for site plan and then to apply for minor variance after we've had our first round of comments. On August 18, we submitted an application for site plan approval, and we received comments from city staff shortly after. In response to those comments, we've resubmitted the site plan materials and received our second round of comments. Additionally, as part of the site plan process, we received a new zoning notice, which reflects the changes made to the proposal as requested by planning and urban design staff. Since our initial consultation with city staff more than a year ago, the proposal has been revised to incorporate 2 rounds of staff comments. These revisions include appropriately setting the building back from Pape Avenue to allow for a 4.8 meter sidewalk width, relocating the accessible parking space to the shortest distance from the main barrier-free entrance to the building, setting back the waste storage bins by 1 meter from the south property line, and introducing soft landscaping along the west, north, and east property lines.
I see a memo here from planning to you saying that if you move the waste storage is adjusted to 1 meter from the south lot line, you will not require that variance. So is that variance disappearing? Or?
That one has disappeared. So we're only asking for 5 today. So I submitted a revised waiver about a month and a half. You didn't get the revised waiver? This was submitted with Teresa, when was it on? I think January 13th. She said that was her deadline. January 31st, actually, I think. No, this is like 2 weeks before the notice went out. Are you looking at the notice of public hearing? Yeah, so the notice of public hearing says I need 5 variances and the waste storage bin is not on there, which is correct.
Okay. Yeah, then we've got the right.
Yeah, it says, please provide Teresa with an updated zoning waiver to address the revisions. Prior
That's the amended application, yeah.
There's no variance for the storage, so I think we're okay.
No, but do we have to eliminate variance number 2? The building setback?
No, I'll get into the technicality of how the setbacks work, but that one's not removed.
Okay, so we have all the correct variances before us.
We do.
Where is the waste bin then? Is it still,
It's still along the south property line. We just moved it away a meter from the property line. So I'll
still down there where those 2 circles are?
These circles just need to be a meter away from the south property line.
Okay, it's hard to see. Thanks.
It's hard to see from here either. Okay.
Okay, so as a product of all of the consultation, we're actually nearing the end of our site plan process. We've been going through it for about 8 months. Accordingly, city staff have extensively reviewed the proposed development and do not object to the requested minor variances. I can go through the analysis of the variances if you'd like.
I don't know if that's, committee members, do you feel that's necessary for Mr. Morse to do that, or you okay with the presentation?
I just have a couple of questions. What use is going to be made of this building?
There's going to be 2 commercial tenants in the building. One's going to be much larger, and one is probably going to be a fast food restaurant. So like a medium-sized retail store, about 10,000 square feet, and then there's going to be a small restaurant type use.
Given the restaurant use, is the part you're requesting 10 parking spaces versus the bylaw requiring 27, which is in this area, I would argue, extensive, but a fast food restaurant is going to generate a lot of parking. Are you satisfied that 10 spaces is enough?
I am. We've had comments back from Transportation Services who've looked at the proposal in depth, including the uses, and they've determined that we're actually over-providing by 1 parking space under 569/2013, which is the city's current view of parking.
I have another question. Oh, sorry. I'm done. Yeah, it relates to the neighbor who's written in to, I suppose, object to the setback of a 0 meter from I'm assuming that's the adjacent neighbor.
Yes.
Can you just speak to that issue?
Yes. So I reached out to the neighbor yesterday once I saw the letter of objection come in. The owner of the property has also been in talks with the neighbor since the development application for the site plan control. I would have liked to explain how the variances had worked. These variances are the product of the front lot line being calculated from Gamble Avenue as opposed to Pape. If they were calculated from Pape, there wouldn't be a side yard setback variance. Yeah. One thing to note too is we do have an arborist report and we do have the tree protection plan that we've submitted for the city as part of the site plan process. So I noticed that, you know, they're concerned about trees and certain things like that. There's one tree on their property which is going to be removed, but that's not subject to protection under
There's no urban forestry condition here.
No.
It's interesting that we normally don't see this, that you're actually underbuilding. There's a minimum requirement height of 10.5 meters and 3 stories, and in this case, you're building a larger building in terms of your setback, but you're only building 1 story. So
yes.
Explain how that's a little unusual.
My client has a certain product that they're looking to build on the property. They have certain potential tenants who are looking for this amount of space. Right. The building's also been designed at 7.5 meters, which is generally in line with the cornice line of the existing buildings on the street. Okay. So it's deficient by about 2.5 meters lower than what's required on the site. Right. But we think it fits in appropriately.
Okay. Thank you. Any further questions for Mr. Morse, or are we ready for a motion?
I move that the application be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Granitstein. Seconder for the motion.
Second the motion. I'm particularly satisfied that you've had success through the site plan control approval process, and I do believe it fits into the area, so I'm seconding the motion.
Okay, all in favor? You have your approval. Thank you, Mr. Morse.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 10 is being held, so we'll move over to item number 11. 1294 Woodbine Avenue. This is an application to alter the existing 1.5-story detached dwelling by constructing a 2nd-story addition, rear ground and 2nd floor decks, a roof over the existing front porch, and a rear detached garage. And we have on this application a communication from Community Planning requesting a condition of approval, being privacy screening on the south, and 22 form letters in support. And that's all we have. Good morning.
Yes, good morning. My name is Leo Mastandrea. I'm the agent for the owners. And we have submitted the letters of support. We met with planning and we do agree to the screening on the south side. Some of these variances are existing, number 3, 4, and number 1, and actually the driveway as well, so number 5. We're just rebuilding the dilapidated garage.
Okay. Okay, so you're okay with the condition. What's this oversized deck? Is that off a bedroom or off the kitchen?
Yeah, it's off a bedroom. The owner didn't want to go any further in his building, so if you add up the decks, both decks, including the building, we're like only around 14 meters. If you look at the building to the north, that's why they didn't suggest we put screening, because basically we got a building beside us.
Okay, anyone have any questions for Mr. Mastandrea, or are we ready for a motion?
This application seems to be straightforward, particularly having regard to the number of existing conditions. I therefore move the application be approved, subject to the condition of screening.
Thank you, Mr. Granitstein. Someone to second that motion?
I'll second it.
All in favor? You have your approval.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Item number 12 is 126 Rexleigh Boulevard Drive. This is an application to alter the existing 1-story detached dwelling by converting the existing garage into living space and constructing a 2nd-story addition, a 2-story addition on the north side, a new integral garage, and front and rear covered decks on the 2nd floor. And we have on this application a previous decision affecting the property of the committee in 2012, I believe with a different owner. And we have correspondence in opposition from the next door neighbor at 128 Rexleigh. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Chairman, committee members. Yeah, we are seeking a proposal to build a second-story addition on top of our existing bungalow to house our family of 6.
Can you try to speak into the microphone?
Sorry.
It's better.
Bit nervous, sorry.
Yes.
So 3 of the variances that we're looking for are one of the east troughs would be roughly 11 centimeters away from the north line, where guidelines say it can only be 30 centimeters. And then
That's with respect to the 2-story addition on the north side that you're...
That's right, the north
Can you
side.
also sort of get your name and address too?
Sorry, it's Tan Hua, 126 Rexleigh.
Okay. You're the owner, right?
Yes, I'm the owner and here with my wife.
Yep.
Well,
Okay, so you explained that's the roof eaves.
yes,
The height,
yes. The height will be slightly over by about 28 centimeters above from the guidelines, so 8.78 meters instead of the 8.5 as per guidelines.
right?
And then the last
Very-
one
very
is
small.
the porch area, which is a second-story, 2 balconies, which would be covered by our existing roof line that we're proposing, so it's
Right.
not protruding out. Will be over the variance, because we wanted to have some outdoor space. Guidelines was 4 centimeters squared. We wanted to have slightly bigger decks so that we can.
Because you're making the decks a little bit. So are those balconies off of bedrooms or off of common area?
They would be, one would be off of the master bedroom.
Right.
And then the second one would be off of a office space.
Okay.
But both of which would be covered under
they're covered under the roof line,
roof line,
so-
yes. So they're not protruding from the property.
Right. So they're oversized just because that's where they fit, as
Yeah.
opposed to
Yeah.
making it big because you want to have parties out there.
No, no, of course.
So that's, I think, the reason why they want the second floor deck smaller.
Yeah.
But in this case, it's not going to protrude, it's within
That's
the
right.
roof line.
It'll be within the roof line, exactly.
You're slightly over on height by 0.28 of a meter. Okay, do we have any questions for the
I have a
applicant?
question.
Yes.
You're adding a second floor to a bungalow.
Yes.
There are bungalows on either side, I believe. Am I correct?
Yes, but there's actually a back split on our south side.
That's not the side that's objecting, the
No.
other side.
That's right.
Okay, and then are the majority of the properties on the street not bungalows? Are you the first house
Yeah.
to top up?
No, there is an adjacent, not an adjacent, but across the street from us and 2 houses down, which is a 2-story.
Okay, but on your side, they're all bungalows except for,
That's right, we would be the first to build.
okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions, or are we ready for a motion? Yeah. And I take it the previous owner in 2012 got approval, but they didn't, I guess they didn't proceed, right? I don't know if you know, there was a...
I'm not sure.
decision.
The previous owner of 128 also moved out as well, so she's no longer living in that area.
I'm talking about your property, 126.
Yeah,
The previous owner came to committee. in
that's
March
correct. They
2012.
didn't go ahead. They
Yeah, for
actually moved
two-story.
to a different area.
Yeah.
The person that we have the objection from at 128, they didn't move out.
They did move out. Yep,
The person that we have the objection from?
the 128, yes. Sorry, is this a current?
Yao?
This is the previous objection, right, though?
No, this is the objection dated February 14th, Valentine's Day. They're still living there, I take it.
Yan Yao.
Okay.
Have you seen this letter?
I have not seen it. I've not been
Come up
given.
here, I'll give it to you.
Yeah, it was, should have been
Tell us if this neighbor is still living there.
Come on, you can keep that copy, sir, and go back to the podium. Okay.
Okay, I believe these are the current owners.
No, we haven't seen this letter before. It was never brought to our attention.
I assume that would have been put on the website?
This is a rental unit. This is the owner writing the letter. And
Yes.
we do speak to are the tenants there.
I see. Okay. Any further questions, or are we ready for a motion?
The whole area has bungalows, but we do have lots of people moving in with
If you're going to, we should probably get your name for the record as well, if you're going to speak. Yeah.
Vivian Wong.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, Vivian.
Trying to figure out what's there already. No, I know, but there's an attached garage, right?
Yes.
Attached garage. So I'm just trying to figure out, because one of the objection is it's getting too close to the north lot line. You're asking for a variance for that. Is that not already existing with the attached garage, or no? Or am I?
Kind of to complete the facade, we are trying to extend the garage so that it's flush with the front of our house.
But you're not going closer to the north lot line than it already is, are you?
Yeah, it's just going up in line.
It's going up in line,
Yeah.
but it's not.
It's not getting any closer,
That's
correct,
all I want
yes.
confirmed. You're not getting any closer than, I understand you're expanding the garage in the front, converting the back to living space and adding on top, but are you getting closer to the lot line than you already are? Or no?
Just, yeah.
Okay.
But you are adding balconies on that overlook,
Within the building.
but they overlook the north property line. They look to the north. They're on the north side, right?
That's correct. They're on the
And
north corners.
That's the person that's objecting, the person on that side.
They'll be able to use from the front and the back.
To Donald's letter.
So we do have a driveway where technically that new balcony in the front on the north side. So we do have that huge dividing line right now with regards to privacy.
Our garages are side by side.
Yeah, no, I remember what it was. I just wanted to-
You currently park a car in the garage? You're going to convert, you're looking to convert the garage to living space, correct?
Yes.
So where are you going to park the,
Adding another.
where are you going to park your car?
So there's.
There's a driveway in front of it?
As mentioned, we're going to extend the existing garage. So there will be a new garage created, which would be flushed with the front of the house. And then the existing garage would be converted to a living space.
Okay.
So yes, we do intend to continue using the garage.
And the basement where it's cut out, that's already existing.
Yes, that is.
Basement's already cut like that, right?
That's right. We're not planning to adjust the basement in any way.
According to the survey, it appears that you have a driveway, two driveways between your property and 128. Is that correct? Or at least a substantial space on both sides.
So we can park two cars side by side, existing, yes.
And that's adjacent to the 128 property?
That's correct. And they also can
have a
park.
driveway
That's correct.
there. So you're some substantial distance from 128.
Yes, yes, we are.
Yeah, because 128 has a very generous south lot line, side yard. So if they were to come in at some point, and the lots are all the same size, it's not a question of the lot patterning is the same. Yeah. Okay, so there's a generous side yard provided by the neighbor at 128. But there are, as Mr. Nitfeld said, there is the balconies that are facing. What about privacy screen or?
Although the balconies are on the second floor, though, and the adjacent neighbor is a bungalow, so it's
Yeah, well, if they ever build a second story, neighboring property, either existing owner or future owner could build an addition.
I'm not sure that privacy screen is a good solution there. It'd be
Yeah.
really claustrophobic.
Any questions or concerns? No? Nobody's concerned about them? Okay. In that case, I've reviewed all of this, and I'm satisfied. I did have that question about the setback from the north lot line, but it sounds like that's an existing condition, even though you're building on top and forward. It sounds like you're not getting any closer than it already exists to the north lot line. I don't find the variance in height to be overly dramatic. In my view, it is minor in nature, and we don't see any other, often when we see larger construction happening, we see other variances that are triggered, like floor space index or setbacks. So in my view, the only, and you've answered my concern in terms of the balconies, they're inset within the house, so not protruding out. So given all of that and the size of the generous setback from the neighbor, I believe this meets the 4 tests, so my motion is for approval.
All in favor? You have your approval. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Okay, next application is item number 13, 21 Albermarle. This is an application to alter the existing. Sorry? You were doing 13. Okay. This is to alter the existing 3-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a rear 3-story addition with walkout basement, a rear 2-tiered deck at the basement and first floor level. There's an L missing in level there, and by enclosing the front porch. And on this application, we have 3 form letters of support. We have Urban Forestry requesting their condition number 2, and that's all we have, other than what was submitted with the application. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is David Smith. I'm here representing the homeowner at 21 Albermarle Avenue. Before you is a very straightforward application, very common in the neighborhood. With regards to the variances in general, all of them except for FSI are sort of existing conditions or based on existing conditions. And for FSI, I actually have previous committee decisions, if you'd like to see, documenting that the FSI we're requesting has been previously approved several times.
You're saying that .92 is common for the area. What's it at now? Because
it's likely close to half of that. I can give you that in 2 seconds. Existing is 148.62. We're adding 97.43, so slightly over half of it. But these are exceptionally small houses on very deep lots, very long lots. They spread from Sparkle to Albermarle. And even with regards to the fact that city planning did not support a report, indicates that they've reviewed it, and I mean, they're pretty much in line with.
Correct, yeah. And you do have 3 form letters of support.
We have the support of all neighbors to either side. The numbers jump, which is why it looks inconsistent.
So there is no 23 and there is no 19.
Yep. These are both the side neighbors.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question in terms of, since it's a rear addition, how does this relate to the properties on either side in terms of the depth? It
Great
looks like
question.
it matches, but
It does, yeah. So ground floor and second floor have been cut back. The neighbor to the west is currently building almost the identical addition. So we went sort of full depth on the basement that we were allowed, the 17 meters, and then the ground and second are in line with the neighbor to the west.
so the west being the attached semi? Is that
No, the neighbor, the the attached party wall neighbor hasn't developed yet. Funnily enough, I'm currently developing with them, so they'll be here in a few months with a similar.
Okay.
Economy of scale.
That might partially answer my question. You have a 3rd floor balcony and a rather substantial ground floor deck. The deck is above grade. Can you speak to the privacy issue about that deck in particular?
Well, definitely with regards to the ground floor deck, almost every house on Albermarle has the same situation, and the topography is such that you're overlooking, unfortunately, their rear yards are sort of the surface of the moon.
I'm more concerned with the side.
Sideways, so our deck comes out to the same projection as the neighbor to the west that's just building, and the party wall neighbor is effectively going to do the exact same thing.
Thank you.
So very consistent.
Thank you.
Okay, we ready for a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the application subject to forestry condition number 2. We didn't ask if you knew that there was a
I knew it,
condition.
yeah.
I believe that this is a reasonable proposal for the area, and again, I believe it meets the 4 tests.
I'm going to second the motion.
All in favor? Gabby, approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, item 14 is being held, so we'll move out to item number 15, 1302 Woodbine Avenue. This is an application to complete the construction of a detached garage to the rear of the existing 2-story detached dwelling that was started without a building permit. And we have on this application before us the plan submitted with the application, correspondence from the applicant, Walter Ellis, dated November 12th, correspondence from Dino Giletti, agent, received February 21st. We have community planning requesting revisions to the variance to reduce the length of the garage, and 23 form letters of support signed by neighbors. Sir, have you seen the staff report?
Yes, we have,
Okay,
and we...
Sorry, I didn't interrupt.
Sorry.
Your name and address.
My name is Dino Giulietti. I'm the architect for the project.
Okay.
We had some comments from planning, so we addressed those. We revised the drawings to reduce the amount of the variances that we were requesting.
Okay. Are those revised plans before us?
Planning indicated that their suggestions might also adjust your variance number 2. Can you tell us what the new figures are
They're right
that
here.
what you're asking?
All right, do you only have one set for us?
They said to bring one to you and one to the planner.
Okay, so maybe you can read them to us. It's okay.
Yeah, okay.
I have one.
We can give one to,
Do you want one?
I'm not decided.
it's reducing the variances.
So the first variance, the lot coverage, we've reduced from 55.19 to 50.58. The existing lot coverage is 49.39%, so we've only increased the lot coverage by 1.19%. So it's fairly minor.
That's based on the existing, you're saying?
Yes.
Basically, you're going from
49.
50.58% also equals 93.98 square meters. We need to express it both ways, which you have, which is...
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. The second variance,
Keeping.
we've reduced the size of the garage, so it's also increased the soft landscaping in the rear yard. So we're at 40.69% in lieu of the 40 that we had before. The third variance, there's no change. The fourth variance, we've decreased the size of the addition, or the garage, so instead of 19.14%, we're at 14.55%. And we're only actually 1.18% over the existing garage size.
Okay, hold on a second. So do you need that variance?
Yes.
Oh, right, because you're allowed 10%, you're at 14.
Yes.
Coming down from 19, you're at 14.5.
Okay. And then the last variance is the lot coverage again, the same numbers as the first variance.
Excuse me, people in the, Mr. Cantor and your clients, Mr. Cantor, can you please stop the whispering because it's disturbing our concentration? Sorry. Thank you. And you have the plans that you have that you've just given reflect these change variances. Okay.
So in effect, we don't need the planning condition because this is I just checked them, it's got all of them.
Yeah, I'm going to say nominally improved, yeah.
So this then is your revised application?
Yes.
Okay. So you're still getting the width.
Yes, we still want the width, but we reduced the depth.
Got it. Okay. Lots of support.
lane, then, does that just service the few houses on Woodbine? It's not like a traditional lane that goes the full way
No.
through? So you've got support, I guess I could go through the letters, but do you have support of everybody that's using the lane? Mostly?
I'll ask the owner.
Okay, sorry.
Can answer that.
1,300.
Because normally the lane,
On the laneway? Yeah.
yeah, because you're just asking for reduction from the setback from the lane, so
Yeah.
that's why I asked that
The
question.
existing garage is actually closer to the laneway
Is it?
than what we're
Okay,
proposing.
thank you.
Okay. Only serves a couple of properties.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I was asked a
Yeah.
question. Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. On that basis, you've satisfied any concerns that I've had, so I'd like to bring a motion forward for approval of the application as amended. That satisfies, since you've amended it, the planning conditions, so we no longer need those. So my motion's for approval.
What's that motion?
All in favor? Thank you. You have your approval, thank you.
As amended, I said, yeah.
As amended, yeah. Okay. Next application is item number 1612 Norlong Boulevard. This is an application to construct a new two-story detached dwelling. We have a report from Community Planning requesting a condition of approval that it be built substantially in accordance with the plans. We have correspondence and concern from 14 and 22 Norlong, and correspondence in opposition from 319 Glebemont and 20 Norlong.
Hi.
Good afternoon. Good morning, I mean.
Good morning. This is Parisa Amiri. I'm talking on behalf of the client on this application.
Sorry, your name is?
Parisa Amiri.
Okay, you're not listed as either the agent
No.
or the owner, right?
No. I'm just talking on behalf of the client, with the
Okay, so
client.
perhaps you can just, when you leave, hand in a...
I will.
So we get the correct spelling of your name?
Yeah, I filled it out.
Okay, so we also have, you're aware of the staff report?
Yes.
Okay, and you're seeing the letters from the neighbors?
Yeah, we are seeking technically 3 variances, total height variance, main wall height variance, and FSI. Based on the city staff report, they are recommending to build based on the elevation that has been proposed to the committee.
Yes.
And this is what we are planning to build later on. Actually, my client is planning to build.
So that'll protect that the height variance only relates to part of the...
Well, yes, it's only related to the dormers of
Dormers,
the elevation.
Okay.
And in terms of the letters, those letters they are mentioning about the driveway, which this lot is private driveway, and there is no like access to the side or whatever, and we are not seeking any release for the side setbacks at all.
So is it like a shared right-of-way?
No, it's
There's no
not.
right-of-way
No, it was private driveway, and there is no right-of-way as well.
Yeah, there was some discussion about with the neighbor about a fence or something.
Yes, they were talking to the client regarding the future construction provision if they want to build the house, and during the construction the fence should be somewhere they would be able to use their driveway, and they don't interfere with their driveway, because on the south side the driveway is on the the neighbor on the 14th, it has a driveway on the his north side, and like when the construction is gonna be occurred, the driveway, they don't want the driveway be obstructed. And this is something the client talked to him, and then this is a construction procedure they are going through, and have agreement based on how they want to go through the procedure.
Does it just relate to construction, or is it just relate to the house and the future fence or something? Will the driveway be rendered unusable for the neighbor because of the house?
Well, the driveway itself, the neighbor driveway is on the 14. Is 241 itself. It's on the north side. 241 itself is it's a private driveway for the neighbor on 14.
Right.
And
See, if you put up a fence, it says 0.9 of a meter from, they're concerned that she won't be able to use her driveway. Is that correct?
but there is no fence on like to the
They're
end
saying
of
you
the
wanna put a
property.
fence, yeah.
When the building ends, they want to put the fence for the backyard, not like for the driveway, like for the setback and between on the property line. They don't have.
What fence does anybody know what fence is being complained about? The rear yard fence?
This is what the neighbor's saying,
They don't have any garage at the back.
saying the applicant seems to be proposing to erect a fence 0.9 of a meter into the current driveway of 14, as this would effectively render the driveway unusable.
So it's not that they are not going, first of all, the property line is, the lot is private. And they don't have plan to build any fence on the property line.
Right.
They just want to put the fence when the buildings end.
So your proposal is to fence the backyard?
Yes.
Okay, as I read the comment that the chairman just read, it sounded as though your neighbor is under the impression that you're proposing a fence along the north property boundary adjacent to the house, and the concern is, according to that letter, is that the fence is proposed to go partially onto her property and therefore obstructs her driveway. You say that's not correct?
No, it's not, because they are not building the fence between the houses on the property to the front of the property.
And where you are building it, you're on the property line anyway?
No.
You're
it's,
not?
We have this required side setback from the property line, and the fence is going to be enclosing the backyard.
But it's going to be on the property line?
On the property line in the backyard, but they
Yes.
don't have any garage at the backyard.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I just...
Her driveway doesn't extend that far back.
No.
No.
I have another question. The official plan requires that, because you're in the neighborhood section, that the proposal needs to have must fit the existing physical character, respect and reinforce the existing character. You are proposing what is in effect a three-story house, notwithstanding the fact that's not how it's defined. It actually is 3 stories because of the integral garage.
Well, it's not.
One second. On one side, you have a bungalow, and on the other side, you have a 1.5-story house. Can you tell me where on your side of the street, on this street, there are other houses that are this size? Is this something that already exists close by, or is this the first one of this size?
No, there are similar houses exist on Norlong, Glipmount, Barker, Woodmount.
Okay, where on this street? Can you show me on the there's a location map. I'd just like to know how close they are. There's the drawing that shows your property relative to the other properties on Norlong. Where are the other 2-story houses, 3-story houses?
I'll look it up on the Google will show it.
Looking within that block, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. Or is this the first one? I think it's the
No
first.
fence is built on the north side.
But it might be on the other end. Over, is it?
There are some on the
I don't,
adjacent.
yeah,
Yeah,
the other
but-
block. I
but-
can't remember the name of the street here, not.
Norlong, but
Crawford,
that's,
Street.
but that's is sort of a discrete group of housing. I just wanted to know if there's anything else.
Yeah.
Or is this the first?
The neighbor does indicate that where she doesn't want the fence is from her existing garden gate to the street. So
Okay.
it's only, I guess.
And that's not where they're proposing
Right.
it. They're proposing it as just the garden.
Yeah.
Just want to see on the same street?
Yeah, you're in a group of houses, and I'm sorry, it's so small, I can't read it. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 houses together.
Yes.
You're in the middle. You're proposing a 2-story with an integral garage, which is effectively visually 3 stories in height. Are any of those other houses that size?
Well, not of those who are objecting. No, none of those who are objecting, but the 42 Norlong has got the approval and it's under construction. It's for the new construction and it's almost the same. And in the...
It's a block, what, north
so-
of that?
Yeah.
It's north of that, yeah, it's north of that.
Okay, you answered my question. And so the other houses in your group are bungalows or 1.5 stories. Here's the first.
Yes, for the surrounding, this is the first one.
What about across the street?
The cross the street again is 1.5 story as well.
Do you have concerns with that? Because I believe that what you're proposing is out of context and doesn't in fact meet the official plan.
Well, but on the glebe mount, like which is the street behind it, there are lots of houses. It's like 312 glebe mount.
That's a different street. It's not part of this grouping. Anyway, that's my point, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions? Are we ready for a motion?
Like the cross the street is 2-story, but like within the, it's 2-story. The one which is cross south is 2-story.
A new infill? Maybe you could put on the projector, that would be helpful. It's probably not
But south isn't across the street. South isn't across the street.
It's behind.
It's behind.
Oh,
The street behind?
oh. Okay, I'm
Where is
confused.
that?
What is that? Yeah. This is on Norlong?
What's the address? Okay.
It's on Norlong?
And the other one that I mentioned is on the Norlong toward the O'Connor.
There's one block north.
Well, we cannot say it's exactly one block because it's somewhere in between 42 to 12.
But it's not in that block. I'm sorry, I forget the name of the side street. There's Cosburn.
Norlong.
No, but
This street,
Cosburn and then
you
the
can't
next
see
street
it.
to the
Yeah, you
north.
can't see
What street is
I
that?
don't know what it is.
The next major
Cosborn,
street.
yeah.
North of Cosborn.
North of Cosburn is O'Connor.
Oh, that's O'Connor?
Yes.
Okay. I thought there was another side street there.
North of Cosburn is O'Connor. The plain street is in between, and the plain street is on between, and like there are similar houses on plain as well.
Right there.
No,
But in this small pocket, well, for this elevation could be almost the first. There are two stories, but this is the norm of the neighborhood. Like in the pocket, if we consider the west of Woodbine, east of Coxwell, south of O'Connor, north of Cosburn, there are houses that they are changing, and there are more of look of this kind of elevation. And and the neighbor who is projecting for the president, he's living on Glebe Mount himself, and on the Glebe Mount is similar houses like this.
Yeah, but that wasn't my question. I basically wanted to know, and you've answered the question, thank you. I basically wanted to know if you were the first building of that height in that grouping of houses, and you are. And
Yes.
You've answered the question, thank you.
In addition to the height, I'm curious to know what the floor space index, the permitted is 0.45 and the proposed is 0.72, and this is a new construction. What are the bungalows at?
Well,
Reference to what either side is like and how big this will be in comparison to the small, the neighboring properties.
Well, I can answer your question, because based on this, that we don't have any, based on the bylaw, we don't have any depth variance, length variance, or lot coverage variance. Lot coverage variance in the East York is one of the most important items most of the people come to for the release. And on this specific property, nothing has been triggered.
I understand that, but we do have a height variance coupled with a FSI variance, so.
The height, as the planning report says, is only the overside dormers and other design features.
We have an
the
overall
main wall
height
heights.
variance, but.
Yeah, and it's
so-
tied to plan, so.
Right. I think that's triggered because of the integral garage, but I'm curious to know what the FSI is, you know.
Well, honestly, I don't know FSI of the other bungalow over the street, but like if we look at the site plan, this is the length that we are proposing, and this is the neighbor's length. This is the neighbor's length. This neighbor length, and this is neighbor length as well. But we don't have any variance on the length or depth.
FSI for the building is 45.
Yeah.
It must be close to 45, what exists.
Yeah.
Must be.
Just at 35. It's right at the maximum.
And in this kind of design, I'm an architect myself too. In this kind of the design, when it's going to be norm in the other part of the city, when the garage goes inside and it's integral garage, all the walls around the garage, all the landings for the stairs, which is the difference between the garage to the basement, and if there is a side door, all of them counts as FSI. Although it's not living space, but technically it counts. And the zoning examiner just deduct the parking space itself, the required parking space.
So that doesn't sound like it would make a big difference, but it would make a difference. So could you tell us what the floor space index would be without the garage area that you're talking about? Approximately.
Gonna be usually is 4% of that.
So
it's gonna be 68 cents. It's gonna be something 68. Usually, I don't have the a calculation of this right now, but usually based on the other experiences that I'm working, especially in that neighborhood, with this kind of lot size, it's around 4%.
Anybody have any further questions? Okay. I have considered Mr. Nepfeld's concerns about the street, and that this is the first house that's going to be this high and this type of construction. And usually with this type of project, we get a lot of neighbors objecting. But as the chairman has said, often you have to start somewhere. And taking a look at this application, it doesn't seem that the variances are extreme. And there appears to be, not within the immediate area, but within the neighborhood, there's buildings going up of this type. In those circumstances, I'm prepared to make a motion to approve this application.
That's subject to the staff condition.
Yes.
Yeah, substantially in accordance.
with the
In addition, the neighbors that are objecting aren't objecting on the basis of the character of the neighborhood, which I think is extremely important.
Yeah, they seem to be talking mainly about this fence
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
you've established is in the back, for the backyard.
You're okay if you put any condition for
Well, it
the...
ties it to the elevation.
Yeah, well, this is the elevation that definitely wants to be built over there.
Yeah, I'm just
Do you
looking at-
support this or not?
And in terms of the height,
Actually, we're in committee now, so
sorry.
unless you're asked a
Looking at the planning
question,
memo. I'm just looking at the
Ms. Valentine asked your question, but otherwise, we're sort of now in committee, now that we've made a motion, we have a motion on the floor.
okay.
Thank you.
I'm not seconding.
Okay, so that motion fails. We have a new motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move that the application be denied approval. I don't believe that this is consistent with the immediate neighborhood, and I don't believe, based on what is stated in the Planning Department memo, that it meets the official plan neighborhood criteria. On that basis, I recommend that the application not be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Nipfel.
I agree with Mr. Nitfeld's comments, so I'm going to second the motion for refusal.
Okay, all in favor? Opposed? I will abstain to avoid a tie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That was number 16. Next application, item 17, when I vetted the agenda at 9 o'clock, I know the weather was bad, no one appeared for 145 Queen. Is the agent here for 145 Queen? Okay, are there any neighbors here on 145 Queen with concerns or in opposition? No? Okay, come on forward, please. Okay, this is an application, 145 Queen Street East, to alter the existing mixed-use building as follows: enclose the portion of the loading dock for the purpose of expanding the kitchen preparation area associated with the community center, and to convert a portion of the underground parking area into a storage space and a telecommunications closets. It's a little grammatical, it's either a telecommunication closet or telecommunication closets. I don't know, we'll find out if there's more than one. We have before us on this application a previous decision of the committee affecting the property and email correspondence from traffic planning. And that's all we have. Okay. Good morning, you want to come to the podium, please? No, I'd like you to come to the podium, please, unless there's some... Okay, well, perhaps the gentleman with you can assist you. You're together, correct? Yes. Lady, okay. Oh, sorry, I couldn't see. Seriously, yeah, we'd just like to have you at the podium because, first of all, you're on YouTube on the camera,
Okay.
and...
Well, good snowy morning. My
So
name
this is
John
the
Hayden.
Fred Victor Center, and... Okay. And I see I was one of the members that approved the application back in 2004.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
I hope we'll have your support again.
Okay. So yeah, why don't you just give us a little bit of a background as to what the intention here is? And I guess there's some issues dealing with parking. And have you seen the transportation memo?
No, I haven't seen transportation.
You have the
Particularly in the variances.
I don't think so.
Oh, it's just a...
I'd like to also introduce to you Jose Bertrand.
Okay, so they're basically saying they have no comments. Thank you.
I'd like to introduce to you Jose Bertrand, who's the acting interim director for Fred Victor.
Welcome.
He'll answer
Perhaps you can help with the
questions related
the
to the operation.
overheads.
I'm strictly technical person here.
Okay.
So thank you very much for speaking with me, being with me this morning. I appreciate it. And I'd like to thank the staff for helping too. They were very supportive. As you can look at this building, it's a complicated building, and I'm sure they went through many hundred bylaws that go back over a few hundred years. So, and they've found us the areas that comply and those areas that don't. Yeah. So we have, just to make it simple, I'm going to take it through you slowly. It's 2 construction projects which we put together in here.
Okay.
First of all, in the basement level. So if we have a plan at the basement level. There's the existing basement, and I can't point to it. It was going to be over there. You can see there's 2 storage areas on the right-hand side of the end.
Yep.
And when you see the photographs of that area, there's a lot of temporary storage in the basement.
Right.
And it's made out of plywood, and there's garbage cans and things like that. What we're trying to do is clean it all up, make it a garbage room, make it a fire-rated garbage room. There's a little bit more pictures of that area too.
Can I ask you a question? The last drawing is, I was confused by, I need some clarification on the parking.
Oh, sure.
It says here
We're reducing
that basically you would need a minimum of 22 parking spaces. But you have 7.
Yes.
And now you would like to have 5 because you're going to repurpose 2 spaces. What happened to the 22? You obviously never built them. So what is your legal status right now? Because
It's conforming as it is now, because...
how is that?
I guess that happened through a bylaw way back, somewhere down the line.
So the
or a committee
22
of
don't
adjustment
apply to you
variance.
anymore?
No, that's right. That's my understanding. Because
that only-
if you were building that building today, a new building with apartments and things like that, you would require a lot of parking spaces, but not for this particular function, which is
Do you believe you've
basically
been
a shelter.
exempted from that and that the 7 that you've got now comply?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
It needs a variance.
So what we're looking for is a
I
variance of
understand
few
it still needs
spaces.
variance, but it
Yes,
was originally built without the 22 spaces.
That's right.
Because this probably predates
That's
the
right.
bylaw requirement for 22.
that's right. So what you're looking at is the existing now.
Yeah.
And then 2 of those spaces you're proposing?
We're about to show you
Okay.
what we're doing. So there's another plan here. Now you see on this plan, you see there's 2 less parking spaces. There were originally 7 across there, down. That's it, bingo, thank you.
Yep.
I'm sorry I could like to point there, but. So that's the requested variance for that. And what we're going to do is improve that by changing all that plywood, which is not a great material to have in a garage. So we're having fire-rated gypsum board partitions to go in there, properly done. All those garbage cans will go into that area you'll see in the upper right-hand corner. So we'll take them and clean it up, and now you have a nice, clean, neat space, fire-rated, and it makes it just a lot safer to be. And I'm sure the fire marshal will be really happy.
Do you have a demand for more parking than that at the present time?
No,
Who uses
no.
that parking?
Nobody right now. We have some photographs of vacant space.
No, just generally, is it used by people that work there or?
Generally, people that work
Okay,
there.
but you don't have a bigger demand than that?
No,
Okay,
no,
thanks.
no.
Also note that in 2004, you were permitted a gross floor area of 4.56 times the area lot at 7,514 square meters. And in fact, you're actually asking here for less than what you were permitted in 2004.
So the issues here is parking. It's not GFA.
Yep.
It's interesting.
I guess you didn't build out as much in 2004 as you had permission.
Be careful, we might come back. So that's one part, that's one project. So let's take a look now on the ground floor plan. So you see that tiny little dot in there? That's where the catering kitchen loading dock area is, in there.
Okay.
And what we want to do is make a huge expansion of about 80 square feet on a 16,000 square foot building. And we're looking for a variance because, believe it or not, by the building codes and requirements and zoning particularly, you need another parking space. Well, you may by zoning, but certainly by use, no. What's more needed is a shelter and a purpose and a place to live.
Yep.
Cars aren't important.
Yep. You obviously don't seem to have the need for the cars either, so. Yeah. Okay. I think we'll take a break before we do the 3.
So there's the plan that shows
5 minutes?
where the kitchen expansion will be. You can see that shaded area in there. This little area.
I see.
Where the expansion is there. And they're expanding over the loading dock area, which is the next one. Oh, that would be difficult to construct that way, too. Let's try one more rotation. I'm getting bingo. So there's the loading dock area.
Okay.
And the expansion is really going across here and back there. So you still have all the code required exits, but you have a nice little neat spot that's already got a roof on the top of it.
Right, so you're still going to have a loading bay, just going to be smaller.
Oh, yeah, well, yes, there is a little one there. What it really does is helps the kitchen. People in the kitchen with catering and laying out their work surfaces.
Sure.
You don't want to bang over something else, and especially when they're delivering food not only to the building but around the city. The trucks will arrive and come back and take the food out to other shelters in different areas. I must say they do a wonderful job looking after people. I tell you, you go down to the harbor front, and I've been down there. We've done fire plans down there, and you look at it and you see hundreds of people on a gymnasium floor, taped out spaces, and they have a warm, sheltered space to stay, safe space. And meals are delivered. And
Okay, thank you, sir.
what really breaks your heart is they have their animals there too.
Do we have any questions, or are you ready for a motion?
So the area of expansion is a 0.1% increase in GFA, so it's minute.
And you're, like you said, you're under what you're permitted anyway.
Yes, that's true. So because we're adding this huge area in here, we now need another parking space. So that's where the variance comes. So I have no more photographs, but you may have some questions.
No, I don't think we have, unless my colleagues do. I don't think we have any questions. That was a very excellent, thorough presentation. It was nice to see photos to help us and visualize exactly what's going to happen.
Well, thank you.
Actually, I note that variance 1 is probably not even required, but I guess it's, Madam Secretary Treasurer, why is that even required? They have permission to build more.
You know, we were doing work on a high-rise building, and there was a bank going in the ground floor,
Right.
and it was about 80 square foot just for a vestibule to provide an airlock.
Yeah.
Had to go to committee of adjustment, and rightly so.
Tied to something, or?
Yeah, okay.
So, so anyway, I guess, based on the variance.
I should mention, too, that the head vicar has contacted the councillor, and they are supportive of this proposal.
Right.
Sometimes they give a letter, but obviously it's, and there's no opposition here.
No, and I think that the only variance that you've already spoken to is relating to the parking, really. I mean, the variance for GFA, you're under what you had previously, and you've satisfied me in terms of the need or demand for parking for this particular use, and it's existing at 7, built that way, so predates probably the bylaw requirements, and you're reducing it slightly. So I'm satisfied that that meets the 4 tests for minor variance, and my motion is for approval.
Thank you, Ms. Valentini.
And I share my colleagues' views. I was only concerned with the parking, and I'm pleased to second the motion.
Thank you very
All in
much.
favor?
I might add, thank you for your help. I appreciate it. That building will look the same from the outside. The photograph I owed them with by the time we're finished, but it's going to be a safer building, and it's going to get more food generously distributed. A worthy cause. Thank you for your approval.
Thank you.
Good day.
Okay, so that completes the uncontested matters. We have the contested matters to go through, which are items 8, 14, and, hold on, and 10. Thank you. Yeah, so we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and we'll come back to do those 3 remaining items on the agenda. Thank you. So we'll see everyone back here at 10 to 11. Okay, thank you for your indulgence. So we're going to do the three held items from this morning's agenda. The first one is item number 8, which is 23 Connaught Avenue. Would the applicant please come to the podium, and the concerned neighbor, please come sit at the table at the far end on my left, your right. This is an application to alter an existing 2-story semi-detached dwelling by constructing a 1-story rear northeast side addition. And there are 2 variances, the reeve projection and the, in both, under the old bylaw and under the new bylaw 567/2013, and under the old bylaw 438-86, the minimum required side lot line setbacks of a semi-detached dwelling is 4.45 of a meter when the sidewall contains no opening. In this case, the semi-detached dwelling will be located 0.01 from the north side lot line, which maybe perhaps hear more of. We have on this application before us the materials filed with the application, of course, and we have Urban Forestry requesting their condition number 2, and we have correspondence in opposition from 18 Connaught and from Ronald Cantor on behalf of the neighbors at 25 Connaught. And that's all we have. Good morning.
Good morning, committee. My name is Lawrence Malik, and I'm representing the owner as the agent and for this project. And to start off, my client had proposed to put a 2-piece powder room addition to the rear, simply because it's difficult for them and for guests to have to go upstairs to use a powder room bathroom on the 2nd floor. So it was a matter of convenience to have a 2-piece powder room in the rear. We are requesting from the committee to seek relief for the 2 variances for the setback. I have received a letter from the owner that was signed by the previous landowner that they had built this board fence 4 inches on their side of the lot line. And I have also received 6 signed petitions from neighbors in the area in support of the application. The proposed addition
Excuse me?
being...
Could you clarify? I didn't understand the fence. It's 4 inches. It's on which property is it on? It's on your applicant's property or the adjacent property? You said the fence was not on the property line.
I have, perhaps I can illustrate this with a drawing I have here to show you. So the proposed addition is located 4 inches, 100 millimeters, just to the south of the north lot line. And it's understood that where the fence is located, just inside the lot line. So what there has been an attempt to communicate with the neighbor to the north to see that we could try to come to some resolution on this proposed addition. My client is prepared there is an air conditioning unit on their side of the property, which we realize will be impacted by doing the proposed addition. We had asked the neighbor if they would be able to decommission the air conditioning unit temporarily, of which at that time we would presume, with weather permitting, in late April, early May, we would then commence the construction. We would prepare the grading plan. We would demolish that portion of the fence, that board fence that's affected by the addition, and we would then repair and reinstate the fence back to its original condition, and then also do whatever necessary landscaping is required, and we would also have a document that would have the air conditioning unit back functioning, operational before the commencement of the summer months, which is when the client would want it or the neighbor would want it during the summer months when they need it. The addition as proposed to the rear, I'm almost done here. The intent is to try and keep with the same character of the cladding used for the house. It's just a matter of just having this one-story, two-piece addition to the rear. So we're just requesting from the committee to get relief for the 2 variances because of the overhang would be at the same line as the lot line, and we understand that you can't encroach more than 0.9 meters into the setback, and that the north limit of the addition would be 0.1 meter or 4 inches away from the lot line when the variance is where the allowable is 450 millimeters or 18 inches. I have nothing further to add.
Can I just ask you a question about the fence? So the addition will replace the fence in that portion where the addition goes that you're proposing?
That is correct.
The fence will be gone and it'll start from the addition back?
Yes.
Okay. So it's modest powder room on the main floor. These are very, very small lots.
They are. Yes. I understand it's a challenge, but we're trying to be as cooperative and work to do this. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the support of the neighbor, and hence this is why we're here now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
For Mr. Malik? So Mr. Malik, we'll hear from Mr. Cantor on behalf of the neighbors, and you'll have a chance to respond.
Thank you.
To what he has to say.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Cantor, K-N-T-E-R, initial R, and I represent Julie Saye and Elliot James, the co-owners of 25 Connaught immediately north. I did send a letter in yesterday, which you have. Yes, they're sitting there now. And perhaps if you could show the photo 1.
Yeah, I was going to mention in your letter you make reference to some photos, but we didn't.
Yes, here's one of the photos here.
Thank you.
And you can see they are in the center. It's a row house. It is a very narrow lot, a bit over 4 meters at the front, a little less at the back. So basically, it's a 13-foot wide property, a very narrow property. If you could show photo 2, please. Photo 2 shows the rear They are in very close proximity, and what Mr. Malik is proposing is to fill in the notch or a portion of the notch on the left between the two properties. I would note that notches are a typical of the physical character of houses in the area. By eliminating the notch, it would restrict the light and air now obtained through the rear window to the north side of the house owned by my clients and create a claustrophobic feeling for them.
Where your finger is now, on that, is that part of the neighbor's house?
The neighbor's house,
Or is that just?
Julie, could you just indicate your house? Your house is there.
Okay, so what's the piece that protrudes?
The neighbor's house is there, and the addition would go where her finger is.
So that seems to come, it's the same, it's funny, it's the same material, the same cladding, and it's, so they go way beyond
That's part of
your
the house,
neighbor's.
though.
Yeah. I was asking if that's part of the neighbor's house, and it's, no.
To the right is.
Yeah.
My client, the neighbor is to the right, the White House. The
Oh.
applicant's house is to the left, where
Yeah.
the fingers are.
Okay.
Addition would go where her finger is.
What's this?
That's another house, that's a different house.
That's what I thought. This
Oh.
appears to come
Different house.
That's what I was.
That's 27, I believe.
Is
thought
there,
it was
these
that.
lots are only 13 feet
that's-
wide.
that's 27.
I assumed it was part
Yeah.
of your client's.
That's 27. Could you show us the interior, Ms. Say?
So how did that get built? Was that?
I don't know, sir. I don't know. This is a picture of the interior of my client's house. As you can appreciate, in a row house, there are no windows on either wall.
That's correct.
There is, this is the window. The window to the right would be affected very significantly by the addition.
Is
You can
that
see-
not affected by the house at 27?
No. This is 23 is to the right. 25 is our client's house.
Mm-hmm.
And the light through this window would be significantly affected.
That's on the second floor?
That's the first floor.
That's the first floor.
Yes, sir.
So the addition that's proposed is going sort of there.
Yes, sir. In there for about 8 or 10 feet. 8 feet, I believe it's 8 feet.
Where's the air conditioner that the
The air conditioner is somewhere in the middle. I want to talk about consultation later, but I want to really focus on the planning impact.
Can we go back to the previous picture, please, ma'am?
Yes.
See it there.
You may be able to see the air conditioner there. Okay. I also want to show the privacy concern, and my clients have prepared a picture based on the architect's drawing. There will be a window, probably quite a large window, similar to the size of the window there now. The window will be located, can you show where the window will be located with your finger? That's where the window would be. And as our client has indicated, as we indicated on this, someone standing in that washroom will have a view of the backyard, the rear yard of my client's very narrow property. Now, Mr. Chairman, I would say to the committee that an application to eliminate a side yard setback of 0.45 meters in many circumstances would be inconsequential. However, in this case, eliminating a side yard setback to the rear of 23 next to a lot 13 feet wide would have an adverse impact on my clients because of the house they live in, the circumstances they are currently in. My letter also refers to problems the variance would create with respect to grading. Grading is not normally a problem you consider, but there have been problems of flooding in the area. It's sandy soil. There is a letter from a neighbor, Mr. Tidman at 18 Connaught. I also have a petition which I'm going to hand to signed by 22 neighbors objecting both on the basis of character of the neighborhood and also objecting because of concerns about the change in grade and flooding. And I realize that the applicant must submit a letter with respect to grading or grading plan of the city, but the problem is, the concern is, it will not be available to my clients. And we've asked the applicant, have not received any indication that they would provide a grading plan to us as well as the city. Now, I do want to speak to the point of Mr. Malik with respect to consultation. There was no consultation by the applicant in connection with this application. I reached out to him. I there have been some discussions, they haven't been successful, but there was not the usual consultation with neighbors. That did not occur. So we submit that the application does not meet the 4 tests in the circumstances of this case. In this case, where the lots are so tight, where a side yard setback of 0.45 meters, where a notch is an existing condition, that the application does not meet the tests under the Planning Act. I do want to say, sir, that in the event, which we hope is not the case, but should you approve the application, at the very least, you should impose 3 conditions. One is the standard forestry condition. You referred to a letter, and that's the standard condition. The second one is to require the building to be constructed in accordance with the plan submitted by Mr. Malik. I believe they're dated March 2018. Thirdly, that you require the applicant to disclose or share the grading plan that he submits to the city, to the neighbors at 25 Connaught, as well as the city. I think those are reasonable conditions should you approve the application, but I do want to be as clear as possible. We are opposed, my client is opposed, and the majority of neighbors are opposed to this application because it does not fit the character of the area. Those are my comments, Mr. Chair. I don't know if there's any questions.
Mr. Cantor, could you please explain how this tiny little addition, and I appreciate that it, in percentage-wise, it's not such a tiny little addition because of the size of the current house and the neighbor, how it affects the character of the neighborhood and what all these other neighbors who, I can understand your client's problems. I don't understand what these other neighbors are complaining about.
Yes, sir. Well, I represent my clients, not the other neighbors. However, my clients have asked me to submit this petition, and I think you can see if you look at the lots in the area, which I have a copy up here. You can see that there are many houses with notches. There are a number of semis, a number of row houses, and notches in the rear are quite characteristic of a number of lots in the neighborhood. Rather than being filled in, they exist to provide light, air, and privacy for my clients and for other houses in the neighborhood.
See, I'm looking at the drawing A0.1, which shows, I guess, the impact of what we saw in the picture of 27's addition. You know, these are being small lots. Somehow that neighbor got permission or built without a permit and went way beyond. Given these are such small lots, the notch situation does provide some light, but, you know.
Well, sir,
in a perfect world, all 3 neighbors would get together and build an extension that goes out to match the one at 27, and then there wouldn't be any issue. I take it your client doesn't have a main floor powder room.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, did I hear the question, sir?
Yeah, so I just followed that up by, I think, the impact of 27 by going quite further out on these, again, very small, very narrow lots. And it is a very modest request to have a powder room on the main floor. I take it your client doesn't have a powder room on the main floor to match.
No, sir, and you know, my client comes to the committee today given the current circumstances.
Yes.
The current circumstances do provide a notch, some light, air, and privacy to the south, and they are asking your committee to keep in mind, to consider the adverse impact that allowing this variance will have on their quality of life in their house. They have a young child, they have 3 people in the house, they live there, they're occupants. It's not for sale like 23 is, and they have a great concern for the continuing character of their neighborhood.
I have a question about the light, air, and privacy. I can appreciate the light and the air. The privacy I'm having a bit more difficulty with. There is, if the powder room didn't go forward, there is already a window on the, that's similar to the window that your clients have, correct?
That's quite true, sir, but if you look at the drawing that my clients have prepared and you look at the location of the window now, you can't as a practical matter, see into my client's backyard from the location of the window now, because it is farther back.
And I would question whether anyone is actually going to be standing there and perusing your client's backyard. That is in fact a washroom, and the window's over the toilet. So the only way that one's going to look into your client's backyard is to be standing on the other side of the toilet.
Well, sir,
It isn't. It seems to me that they've got a window now that you could walk right up to and look out. And in the proposal, there's another window, but it's in a washroom behind the toilet. I mean, it's not the sort of space where someone would stand and look out into the garden.
You can similarly look out from the second floor, I see even better.
I hear what you are saying, sir, and I'm not going to comment on human nature other than to say that the location of the window currently does not allow an opportunity to overlook my client's rear yard in a 13-foot wide rear yard. The variance would allow overlook from that window.
Is there overlook on the second floor as well? Where they don't have to be standing on a toilet?
I do not know, sir. I cannot answer that question. I don't know.
No, we can look at the plans and I guess there is a window. Yeah.
I think as I look at it, sir, there are no windows on the side of the house. I think the window, looking at the section through washroom addition, section A4, it appears to me that the bedroom window is similarly located further back rather than being closer to the rear of the property as the powder room would be.
How would this addition affect your concern about flooding? I see there already is flooding, which...
Yes, sir. The concern is with respect to the excavation that was done previously contrary to the zoning bylaw, and the excavation that would be required for a crawl space as shown on the basement plan. My understanding, and backed up by the neighbor, is that this is extremely sandy soil. People don't build basements, I presume, for that reason, but shown on the basement plan, there would be excavation required for a crawl space, and the concern is that that would reduce the area where infiltration could take place, and the excavation could be higher than my client's property and therefore result in more flooding on their property.
You don't have an expert's report to that effect?
I do not, sir. I do not, and as I've suggested, and we have requested that this grading plan required by the city be provided to our clients. The applicants did not agree, and so we are asking that that be made a condition. I know it's an unusual condition, but I think it is one that is advisable under the circumstances of this case, should you approve it.
I took from what the applicant said that they didn't have a grading plan at this stage.
That may well be the case, but my understanding is before a building permit is issued, they must present one to the city, and I'm saying that should you approve this, we would request that one be provided to our clients as well, so they can, frankly, ensure compliance.
To ensure compliance?
Yes.
Saying for that reason, to make sure that whatever the city approves in terms of grading your clients.
That is correct.
For the grading plan, the city won't provide the grading plan, I'm assuming. You'd have to make a...
Well, in my experience, the city buildings department takes a view that for privacy reasons, they will only give it to the owner, and so I'm suggesting that it would be an appropriate condition to ask the applicant to provide it to us under the circumstances of this case, should you approve it.
Can I see those petition in the picture again? Could you pass that along?
Oh, I'm sorry, I handed it to
okay,
Anita.
that's fine.
Yeah. You want the petition again?
No, not just the picture. You don't have a picture, that's a picture looking out at the property.
Oh, the one looking out?
From the property.
backyard.
Near the end of the, yeah. And it's the impact is this guy here. I'm saying this is the house, the one that, 27 that sticks out. From the inside, that picture's taken from the inside of 25, let's say?
Yes, sir.
Looking back towards the rear yard.
Quite recently, winter afternoon,
Yeah. Yeah, because this guy sticks out. This is what, they're being affected by this guy.
No, but there's still it's the notch.
No, there is no notch.
There's a notch.
When we saw that picture, there was no notch for 27. Oh, 27, here.
No, but there was never a notch anyway.
No, this is Mr. Cantor's client, and this is what we saw in the picture, that it went like, that's what we originally thought that was part of this house, but it's another house, so they have an addition. Which looks like it goes beyond. 27 looks, no, it's around the same size lot. We saw that first picture that we saw?
We've seen this issue before.
Yes.
Yes,
We see
In other
that,
parts of the city.
yeah.
the first picture, the front of the house or the rear of the house, sir?
No, the rear of the rear of the house that shows the impact from 27
Yes,
on
there we
the
are.
client. Yeah.
But on that side of the lot, it's built to the lot line in any event.
They have
design,
a,
even though
so the
there's
neighbor's deck at 27, is there screening on that deck? Talking about overlook into your backyard, your client's backyard. Well, there's a pretty good overlook, right? Remember,
Sir, if
the window above is set back. We're talking about that looking from the window on the second floor, that'll now be also on the powder room. But take a look at the overlook from 27.
If
have a
you're
deck.
suggesting, sir, that the condition with respect to 27 is not ideal, I do not disagree with that. But what we are here today is to consider the impact of the
Yes.
proposed addition of 23, which we submit would
Yeah.
not be, which would create an additional
If
adverse
23
impact.
wanted to do what 27 did, then you have a real problem, right? Then
That is correct, sir. It is possible that worse things might occur. We're here to look at what is
what's before
proposed.
us. I mean, I realize we have what's before us, and what we before us is a very small, 13-foot wide lots. We have a very modest request for a very modest powder room of minuscule proportions to improve the situation, living conditions, so you don't only have one washroom on the second floor.
So I guess, if I could just comment on the word minuscule, I know the committee has said many times they don't consider numbers,
No, of
don't consider
course.
numerical.
Look at the
And
effect,
what we are saying is they
Look at impact.
have to look at the impact on this particular lot under the.
Okay, so we've let you go on, Mr. Cantor, for quite some time, so let's hear Mr. Malik in
Thank you, sir.
response, and we'll bring it into committee for a decision. Thank you. No, you can.
In your response, could you clarify if you would be agreeable to providing drainage plan to your neighbor?
I will in a moment. I want to just reiterate a couple things. First of all, I do have signed petitions as well in support. I can give these to you if you wish.
Okay. Thank you.
As an architect, which I am and have been for close to 30 years, I'm always concerned about light and character. I mean, the application is, as far as we see, is still in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. We're using materials which are part of vernacular. The intent right now, as you can see from the illustration, the second floor protrudes much further than the proposed one-story two-piece powder room. So the existing house is already going to cast a shadow onto the existing neighbor's property, and it doesn't even protrude more than, it's only 8 feet from the existing house, and it's still set back substantially from the rearmost portion of the existing house. And I concur, I agree with you that if one is standing at the second floor looking, they could easily look into the neighbor's property more so than they can with the window that is located just above the water closet or the toilet. No one's going to stand on top of a toilet to look into neighbor's property. I think it's a bit absurd. I think the idea right now is just to bring some natural light in, which we need to do by code. I don't think we're obligated to give a grading plan to the neighbor. We will do it anyway. You have to do it by code. We do agree that we will reinstate the property to character. We do not want to create any flooding on the neighbor's property. We'll obviously do whatever necessary grading we need to do to make sure the water does not flow or impede onto the neighbor's property. So we concur that we will satisfy that condition, but I don't believe we're obligated to have to give the grading plan to the neighbor. We have to do it by code as a licensed architect, and for permit drawings, grading plans will be prepared prior to the issuance of the permit. I'm trying to think what else, other conditions. I guess that's basically it.
Yeah. It's not here, so they still have that.
So how wide is this little fill-in of the notch? Is 3 feet? Is 3 feet is the notch? The width of the powder room, I'm sorry, I'm calling it the notch, but it's 3 feet wide, basically, based on your drawings?
Yep.
I'm asking, okay, that's what you've got?
Roughly speaking, yeah. It's very narrow. I mean, if I can just show you the plan.
It's 7.1 between the houses, so.
You can barely even get a lavatory, a sink in there. It's one of these slimline sinks that would be just in front of the toilet. So it's very narrow.
Yeah.
So.
And again, if the issue of overlook, you can, from the bedroom above, not having to climb on top of the toilet seat, and from the neighbor at 27 that has a deck and has a complete protrusion. I know we're not looking at, we have to take the existing condition, but.
I know there's been issues mentioned about drainage.
There'd be no other place to put a powder room, correct?
That's correct. I mean, I know there's been issues about drainage and dealing with landscaping. I don't think those are the issues that are being at play here for the purpose of this hearing, although we do recognize and do acknowledge that we will adhere to doing proper grading. And obviously the intent of this addition is strictly the pure function of just providing a two-piece powder room on the ground floor for the convenience for my client without causing too much hardship or not causing any hardship. I mean, the only hardship would be the decommissioning of the air conditioning unit for possibly a month or so, and then it would be reinstated and they would have it for the summer months. We have no intentions of causing any further nuisance or any kind of setback to the neighbor. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant's agent or for Mr. Cantor?
Mr. Chairman, at this point, the presentations were excellent. Thank you. I'm not convinced that this is a hardship for the adjacent owners relative to privacy, light, and shadow. It's a very small addition. I believe that any light and shadow implications are already there. I'm not convinced that it provides a point of view into the backyard. It's a small window over a toilet. The one area that I'm questioning is the grading and how to provide some assurance to the adjacent owner about the grading, and I'm not sure that we can maybe the staff can give us some advice. I don't know that we can attach a condition that the applicant has to provide a grading plan. Is there a way of, I mean, if the point is if the adjacent owner goes to the building department and they say, well, it's a privacy issue, I can't show it to you, is there some way that we can at least assist with them at least seeing that information? That to me is the only issue.
The applicant has agreed to provide it to them, then actually at that.
He has.
Because if they don't provide it, who's going to go and make?
Can we put that in the minutes?
As a for the record, again, then what's the obligation on the city's behalf? If the applicant has to provide a grading plan to the building department will be responsible to ensure
that is correct.
Water drainage and everything is onto the applicant's property. Right. If it's not, then the proper course of action would be to contact the building inspector and go through that route.
That is correct.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that type of a condition.
It's a construction matter that I don't think
I know.
should be getting involved in.
Based on that, Mr. Chairman, we do take you at your word that you would share the grading plan, even though you don't have to. I'm going to move.
I did not hear that commitment from. Did he in fact say?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Did he?
No, I said that we will provide a grading plan, but I don't believe I'm obligated to give it to my neighbor, am I?
That's great. That's what I
My
was saying.
misinterpretation. I thought you said I would provide a grading plan even though we're not required.
We would definitely provide a grading plan, which would be part of our documents submitted for permit.
Okay, you're not offering to.
We're not obligated to give it to the neighbor.
Okay, I withdraw my motion.
Yep. Okay, someone like to make a motion?
I move that the application be approved subject to the forestry condition number 2. I don't see this as a imposition on the neighbors. It seems to me that the applicant may be a little short-sighted in not providing a grading plan to the neighbor because he's going to be asking that the air conditioner be decommissioned. He needs his neighbor's cooperation, but that's up to him. I don't see anything on the application that would allow me to refuse it. So on that case, I'm moving for approval of the application.
Thank you, Mr. Granitstein. The seconder for that motion.
I'm going to second the motion.
All in favor? Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. The next application is item number 10, 65 Glenshaw Crescent. This is if the neighbors on this application, please come and join us at the front of the room at that table. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
This is an application to construct a new two-story detached dwelling with an integral garage. We have before us the plan submitted with the application. We have a deferral request from the agent, Jana Regina, received yesterday. We have a report from Community Planning recommending refusal or deferral of the application. They go through analysis and suggest that the application be refused, but they say planning staff would also support a deferral in order to provide the applicant with an opportunity to submit a revised application that addresses the concerns set out in this report. Sir, do you have a copy of that staff report?
Yes, I do.
Okay, do the neighbors have a copy of that staff report? Very good. And we also have correspondence in opposition from 63 Glenshaw directly next door. Okay, so that's what we have. And good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So I just point, in terms of the deferral request, I guess you're acting on behalf, you're not...
I am not the homeowner, no. I am the client, Johnny Regina.
Okay.
The acting agent. The request was put in on Monday. On Friday afternoon, I received the report and an email from the planner.
You know, typically we have very full agendas. Staff is very busy with hundreds of applications every year. To just throw something that's sort of looking that, I don't know if you have statistics, but you came in at 1.17 times. This is a new build. You've come in with a lot of variances for height, for floor space index, lot coverage. So what's the purpose of the deferral request?
Mr. Chair, we've been trying to have a pre-con meeting since July with the planners, and I had email correspondence, and that never happened.
You put in the application?
Sorry? No, at the time when we got our zoning review completed.
Right.
And we've been trying to set up a meeting, and we never had that, and have the documentation of emails since July, I believe, 6th. So we did finally have an opportunity to meet after going back and forth, a couple revisions on the application. In speaking with the planner in early February, we did have another submission, which we received our ZC review on Monday with revisions, and I've gone through those revisions with both neighbors.
What we have before us in the application, was that the original application?
Correct.
Or have there been some
Correct.
some other revisions?
Correct. And based on that, that's why we're asking for a deferral, because of wanting to meet one other time with the planner. We did meet the criteria she asked us to meet under the 1%, under the 9% a 9 meter height, which we did achieve. The neighbor has requested some changes to the upper deck, which will also affect one of the other
So you haven't
variances.
met with the neighbor, with the city, the planner. Have you met with the neighbors? Have the neighbors been involved in this process?
Not till today. I didn't see that a letter of opposition till yesterday.
Okay, but typically, it's recommended that for a new build, especially compared to a little powder room like we just saw before us, the neighbors are, it's customary and good practice to approach the neighbors, this neighbor and the neighbor on the other side, perhaps the neighbor in the rear. So we don't have the situation where you put in an application that's perhaps over the top, and then you expect to have negotiation with planning staff and bring it down to something that they find acceptable.
I'll do respect.
Is there precedent for almost double the coverage in the neighborhood?
Well, I have done an analysis with our new ZC here. I have copies of that for the committee to see if they would like them. I've gone over them.
We have before us?
It's not what you have before you. So this hearing date was originally sent to us, and the same day I got a hearing date on April and March. From that, all of a sudden, I got moved up. I've been trying to set up meetings, and I have correspondence here with planners, which has never happened. We meet on February with the hearing date on the 27th.
Okay, so in any event, you're asking for a deferral?
Correct.
And the purpose of your deferral is to make revisions to your application?
Correct, based on with the neighbors to satisfy them.
Can I clarify? We have an application before us. You have yourself made some revisions, you're proposing some revisions, which we're not going to entertain today. You're discussing those with the neighbors and you're discussing them with planning. You haven't yet had a meeting with planning to discuss those specific revisions.
Correct.
Are they substantial revisions?
I believe so, that they've been reduced to 0.85 for FSI. They've been reduced to 9 meters. There is a deck revision based on this morning's conversation with the neighbors that'll be removed.
The reason I ask is if what you're proposing is a deferral and coming back and very minor tweaking to this application, I personally don't support that because I think this application, to quote the chairman, is excessive. I think what you're asking for is unreasonable in a new build. I wanted to clarify if the idea of a deferral is to tweak this, then I'm not in favor of that. If the idea of a deferral is to substantially alter this, then I think that that's perhaps a different issue. So you're saying that what you're talking about is, I don't need to know the details, but it's a substantial alteration.
Yes, it's every comment on here has been revised.
Okay, so just looking at the planner's letter, they said it's noted the most recent minor variance application in Glenshaw is 0.71 times the area of the lot. There have been approvals in the neighborhood of 0.69 to 79. You're saying you're reducing it to 0.85, which would still be the highest. Then the height variance of 9.65 and 9.73, under the two bylaws, are higher than any house on this other's house on the street and out of character in this area of East York, where height variances only up to 9 meters have been permitted, unless there's topographical considerations. In this case, the public property is relatively flat. The front, side, and rear exterior main wall height is also out of character. So, they can't object in its current form. So, like Mr. Nipfel said, if there's going to be meaningful changes, otherwise we're just wasting your time and the committee's time, and taking up space on several.
I understand.
agendas
I understand.
Back. So
I've been doing this for 25 years. I understand.
Let's hear from the neighbors and see what their position is on the deferral. Thank you. Good morning. Sure. No, please. So before we get into the meat of the application, we just want to hear. Yeah, because we want to hear your position on the fact that the applicant has made a request to defer this application for a maximum of 3 months in order to make revisions and to consult with you. Can we get your name and address to start first?
Christine Slonim at 63 Glenshaw Crescent, the direct neighbor.
Okay, can you bring the microphone closer to you? Yeah, awesome.
Hi.
Thank you.
Should I just read what I have planned?
So what we're here, we're not going into the merits of the application and what your concerns are yet. The applicant has requested a deferral.
Okay.
In other words, we know you've come here down here on a snowy day to deal with this matter, and he's asking that the matter be deferred. He make revisions. He discuss with you your concerns. He comes back to another date 3 months from now when the weather's better, and you'll have to, unless everything's resolved to your satisfaction, you would have to then come back and do that. Or you can say, no, I don't want to have a deferral. I want this application dealt with today on its merits, and I prepared, material, and I have a submission to make against this application. So it's your choice. What I need to know now is just your position on the deferral request.
I agree with you. If he says that the changes are going to be major changes, then I agree. Then we could come back and talk about it. I'm not opposed to him building a building. I'm opposed to him building such a tall building on our street that would impact our homes.
Okay. And you're together, right?
No,
Or she's.
she lives on the next house over.
Oh, so you're on one. You're the neighbor that wrote the letter.
Yes.
Okay, that's at what address? That's 63.
Yeah.
Okay, you're Ms. Slonim.
Slonim.
So let's hear from this lady as well on the issue of the deferral. Good morning.
I'm Sylvia Wineland, 67 Glenshaw, on the other side in a tiny bungalow. And I came to speak in support of the staff report. But having met with the architect, he is addressing most of the issues in the changes he's proposing. And he's also willing to make some further changes based on our discussion with him. So I am asking that you allow a deferral so that we'll be able to see the final plans and drawings that the architect.
And you've heard from Mr. Nipfel, but he's advised him we're looking for.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We're looking for him to come back with substantial changes, not just to tweaking the application.
It looks as if it's the changes that were, he's shown us, written up the changes that he is doing and a new drawing that's not completed yet.
Right.
And so we would like to see the final changes, so we would.
When he's ready, he'll contact staff, get put on an agenda. You'll be re-notified at his expense, and he'll obviously.
Yes. Yeah, I think it's the best way to go.
Yeah.
Hopefully they consult,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
We would like to see the house built, but just more in
keeping.
conformance.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, committee members on the issue of the deferral of the application?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move a deferral of the application to allow the applicant to make substantial revisions in consultation with the planning department and the neighbors.
I'll support that motion.
All in favor? Okay, you got your deferral.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
We'll see you back here when the weather's better.
Hopefully.
Yeah, unless
Hopefully
you
we
wait
get
till next
spring.
winter, yeah.
Should we get spring? You don't think it's ever going to get better? They say it's going to be an early spring.
Okay, so our last application of the morning session is item number 14, 31A Frankdale Avenue. This is an application to convert the existing triplex into a 6-unit apartment building by adding 1 unit to each of the 3 floors. The property has lawful non-conforming status under the Planning Act as the triplex building existed prior to the passing of the zoning bylaw, which does not permit the said use in an RS zone. Any change of use, alteration, or addition to the building requires the permission of the Committee of Adjustment. And a dwelling unit is only permitted in a detached house, and an apartment building is not a permitted building in this zone. In this case, the proposed dwelling units will be located in an apartment building, and the apartment building will be permitted. So the variances are to accessible parking space, parkable parking space, bicycle parking space. And because it's a lawful conform, we don't get into, I believe, the other issues about height and what about the other? Madam Secretary Treasurer, are there any other variances other than ones identified? Is there a height variance, or just it's not permitted, so we don't even get to that analysis? So by the fact that we don't see FSI, we don't see height, we don't see setbacks of that nature.
It's not permitted, so there are no standards, but
Right.
there are the parking standards for all buildings in that area.
Okay, so you understand there's no, if you've been following some of the other applications, there's issues like height and FSI and density and all of that. In this case, it doesn't apply. That's why we don't see that. We only see the bicycle, the parking space issues. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. My name's Gordon Crowhurst. I was hired to do the drawings for my client and prepare this. I was going to appear for him, but in the meantime, he wanted to appear himself. I don't know if you're okay with that, and I'll be available to answer questions because I have the zoning notice on my computer and a set of drawings.
I see. So he's like to make his, it's up to him, he can make a joint submission with you, he can,
Yeah.
you know, he can be the one to speak, and you can be his resource person.
Yeah, he can speak, and I'll just
Okay.
answer questions if he can't answer them.
Okay, so what we have here, just to summarize, we have a triplex, and we're looking to convert it to a sixplex by adding a unit to each floor. Is there going to be, I just want to know, is there construction?
There's going to be changes in partition walls.
Is it, so they're just internal revisions?
Yes, nothing exterior,
There's
no changes.
exterior work, you're not
No.
adding, doing an addition,
No.
top up, anything of like?
No, we're just gutting the inside and redoing it.
So instead of having 3 units, you're going to have 6 units?
Yeah,
How many floors is this?
it's 3 floors.
3 floors. So you'll have, instead of 1 unit per floor, you'll have 2 units per floor?
Yes.
And I take it, just in your presentation, you let us know if those units are not undersized, there wouldn't be a variance?
No, they're all to code, yeah.
Okay, so let's get your name and address and give us a 5-minute presentation.
My name and address?
Yes.
Oh, I don't know, okay. My name is George Chang, I live at 4146 Bethesda Road, Stouffville, Ontario.
Okay, so your name again?
George Chang.
George, so you're one of the owners?
Yeah.
You don't live there, though, I guess? Right?
No.
So, okay. Okay. So please tell us what you want to do. We have...
Yeah, well, basically...
First of all, you've seen the correspondence from, that's been filed on the
I haven't seen...
website?
No, I haven't taken a look at that.
Anyway, we'll hear from, there are neighbors here, so let's go on from there.
Yeah, we're just trying to change the inside from a triplex to a sixplex. There's plenty of space to do it, and Board and I were fiddling around to see if it could be done, and it can be done legally according to the code, fire code, building code, so we thought we'd try.
So, you know, given that it's, just to let you know, when it's a non-conforming use issue, we have to see the intent is to make it, to move towards more compliance. So the fact you're not allowed to have a triplex, and now you want a sixplex, you're moving in the other direction, as opposed to more towards single family. So that's the battle that you have. It was built for you. This is a little different because you're in a non-conforming use situation here.
The house next door is
So you
the
have
exact
3,
same.
so first of all, you have 3 units.
Yeah.
They're rented to 3 different families, or?
Well, right now, we left one vacant, and this is, I think, part of the issue, because we wanted to do this renovation. So we had left the top floor vacant when the tenant left this summer. So we rented it as an Airbnb because, just to make some money, because they didn't know how long this process would take.
Right.
And it's been an issue because there's been parking issues. Some of our guests have parked in the wrong spots.
You want to have a situation where you have 3 units and you have a certain parking situation. You have 3 parking spaces.
And I think it's pissed off
And are we going to have an issue with parking? Tell us about access to public transportation and issues of that nature.
Yeah, I think it's just because of our Airbnb, but we're not in the Airbnb business. We were only doing it just to make some money to wait to do the real reno.
What was the problem with parking?
Some of our Airbnb guests were parking in neighbors' spots in the wrong place, you know, interfering with our tenants, interfering with our neighbors.
Which could happen with your permanent tenants as well.
No, I don't think so, because, no.
Well,
because there are 3 clearly outlined.
I know, but what you're clarifying is that there's a demand for more parking than you're providing.
No, it's only because our Airbnb tenants, guests were so short-term, we didn't clarify to them where the parking spot should be. We since drew a map, and now it's actually off Airbnb.
You have 3 parking spots, you currently have 3 units, so I assume there's 1 parking spot per unit.
Exactly.
In the rent, or they're pay separate, or whatever.
Exactly.
So now you're going to have 6 units, and you're only going to have 3 parking spaces, so where are people going to park?
Well, the place is 6-minute walk from Donlan subway station. There's buses that run along Donlands and Greenwood, 2-3-minute walk. Yep. I mean, it's public transit place.
Okay,
you
so
know?
your position is area is well served by public transportation, so there shouldn't be a parking problem.
And currently only one of the 2 tenants have a car.
There was a transportation memo, correct, that requires, their recommendation is that if the variance is granted, that there would be 3 off-site spots, parking spots leased
Within 300 meters.
within 300 meters. So can you speak to that?
Who's that?
Transportation Services Department for the city is requesting that at the minimum, 3 off-site parking spots be leased. within
Okay.
300 meters of the property. Have you
Okay.
made any attempt?
No, I didn't know that was an option.
Hold on a second.
Is that, did I read it right?
There's an email at 2 p.m. from Robert Lee.
Are you just,
Hi, Daniel. I would be recommending that the 3 parking spaces shortfall be leased off-site within 300 meters of the subject site. Regards. And then I see another email the same day, Valentine's Day, 9 minutes later. He says, "Hi, Daniel. Further to my email below, the zoning notice breaks down the parking requirement between resident and visitor parking spaces, which the public notice doesn't. As our policy is not to write on variances of 1 or 2 parking space deficiencies, I will not be writing on this application." So I guess 9 minutes later,
so it's not a requirement?
he's withdrew his comment. Okay?
Yeah, I get all the correspondence.
Yep.
Okay, I never saw any of this before.
So you didn't see
Right
it
now.
first. So first he says, yeah, you got to rent 3 parking, and then they say, no, we don't comment if it's less, if it's 1 or 2 parking deficiency. Although this deficiency is 3 spots, so I don't know why he's saying that, but everyone see that?
But there's no
So-
indication that it's visitor parking. I don't
He,
understand his-
9 minutes later, he said, I'm not commenting.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Chairman, we could hear from.
yeah, let's hear from the neighbors and, yeah.
I'm concerned with parking, and these
Yeah.
people will know better than we do, what the
Exactly.
parking situation is.
Okay,
in
so
the
that's fine
neighborhood.
with you.
Can I
Finish your
just make one
submission.
more comment? When it has been 3 units, there's been no real issue. There's 3 clearly defined parking spots in the back.
No, but that's not what you're asking for. Just
No, yeah, we're changing, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chang. Unless you want to just add something to sum up, you're over your 5 minutes.
Okay.
Let's hear from the neighbors. You'll have a chance to respond to whatever they have to say.
Okay, there was one item on the zoning bylaw notice, number 6, that said that we didn't propose bike spaces, but we did they were overlooked. We did propose 3 bike spaces in our drawings.
That's variance number 3?
6.
We don't have a variance.
Yeah, it's item number.
Oh, really? Okay, well then.
We can take what you
I looked at the,
It says here, a minimum of 3 bicycle spaces is required to be provided. In this case, no bicycle, and you say that's not.
They're on the
yeah, they are on the drawings.
How many? How many?
There's 3.
You've provided 3.
Yeah, there are 3.
Okay, let's hear from the neighbors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Even worse. Yeah, no, I'm glad you said that, because I think that's right.
Okay, do we have a spokesperson for the neighbors? You certainly, if you're a spokesperson, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on you. If there's something that he doesn't say, that you'll certainly have a chance, you can add to it. But we just, if preferable, we don't need to hear from all five of you sitting here.
It would be helpful if you could advise us about parking in the area as well.
All right. Good morning. My name is Chris Jones. I live on Frankdale Avenue at number 46, and I have lived there for 15 years. I did submit a letter of objection. It was received and put on your website, and then I got an email this morning from your technician saying that it wasn't given to you. And when we looked this morning, it's not on the website either. So I have copies of it. Can I give you a copy?
Yeah, we have other letters from Cat Mills, Sarah Jones Somerville. Another one that doesn't give their address.
There was one that had a parking, someone tried to apply for a permit.
So this one is for me at 46 Frankdale. My objections.
Hold on, sir. I think the format of the letter. I think maybe someone else has sent a copy of your letter as well. Just looked like the formatting seems similar. Interesting. Same font and same headings, but
I've never written one of these before. I just looked at the other letters of objection and used a similar format, so that's why they might look a little similar at the top.
in this one here, 31A, Mark David and Juliet Cook. But there's some different considerations here. Okay.
All right. My objections fall under 6 main points. The first one is parking. As you may see in other letters of objection, and as you've heard, there are several issues regarding parking. Probably the main one is summed up in one of the letters. It's from Nikki and Matt, who live at number 50. They moved in 3 years ago. They put in a request for a on-street parking, and they still haven't received one. So parking on the street's extremely hard to get. Yes, there's parking on the street, but you have to wait a long time to get it. It's like putting your kid in daycare. Got to do it before they're born. And as somebody else has mentioned in a letter, the unit has been rented out. You shouldn't say rented, let or occupied through Airbnb. And there was a problem with parking just with that one unit. So parking can be and is a major issue. The second point is zoning. The area is zoned RS, residential. You can only have a building there if it's semi-detached or detached. This is a triplex, which wouldn't be legal, and yet, to the point made already, they want to make it even more high density, sixplex. Definitely not okay in a residential neighborhood, so zoning's a serious issue. Third issue, apartment size. They are suggesting that they can take these 3 units that are barely kind of family size. There are families in many of these triplexes, maybe 2 people, maybe 2 people and 1 child, maybe a single adult and some kids. They're barely family size, but when they're reduced and cut in half, you won't get families in there. You're only going to have individuals, and quite frankly, I have to ask the question, why do they want to flip it to a sixplex? And I think that leads to the next point, Airbnb. I think they've had the experience and have heard that if you go to Airbnb, you make a lot more money. From what I see on the internet, you can double your money as a landlord if you switch a rental unit to an Airbnb unit. And I think that's what they want to do. I think they want to.
The city has passed regulations on Airbnb, so they would have to certainly fit within that. So they're going to come up and say, no, that was just temporary. We're not doing an Airbnb. And I think there's enough ammunition here just making it from a 3-plex to a 6-plex. But I agree that is another, and that's what they have. How long did they do that for? Do you know? Or
from what I've heard, it was since last summer. It's been an Airbnb to the point where they've taken the key off the door and put
people are not as they're transient. That they don't care if they piss someone off.
Exactly.
They're going to be gone in 3 days.
Exactly. I talked to my 20-year-old kids about it, and they said, yeah, there's a growing trend now that if somebody wants to have a party, you don't have it at home. You rent an Airbnb and you go and do it there. So again, not okay for a residential area. Really, really should throw up red flags. So I think that's where this is headed. Leads to my 5th point, noise and disruption. Noise and disruption, a big issue with Airbnb, even worse issue if it's going to become a party location. So if you have 6 units rented out on short term, and again, I shouldn't say rented, they're let out. This is not rental, this is not tenancy when you have Airbnb. This is a hotel. Basically, they want to put a hotel in there. And a hotel of the worst kind because there's no front desk, there's no concierge, there's nobody to deal with all the problems that come with having a hotel. So this is a bad idea in a residential area. And that leads to the 6th point, precedence. This would set a precedent because there are other triplexes along the street in the area. There's already been a hint that there's another unit that might be thinking of doing this, number 35. They've been made moves to try and evict their tenants. A big concern. If you have these triplexes becoming 6plexes, becoming Airbnb hubs in a nice quiet residential area, it's going to destroy the neighborhood. It's going to destroy the street. So a really bad idea. So I think this should not be considered a minor variance. It should be considered a major variance. If you agree to this request, it's going to create major long-term consequences, irreparable harm to the neighborhood. I think a measure of the concern that we have is that there are 5 of us here today. We didn't get together beforehand and say we were going to come here. We all just showed up. We found out there's 5 of us. There's a dozen letters of objection to it. That sounds like a lot. From talking to your application technician, it's a lot of objections. There's been a petition submitted. It's got 25 names on it, signatures, people in the neighborhood. 3 of us didn't even sign it, so you could say 28. So there's a lot of concern about this. So our recommendation is that you turn down the request for the variance.
Thanks so much. Okay, do we have time for another speaker? Or do you, I think he's covered it. Yeah. Let's hear from the applicant in response. We've heard about the Airbnb, but from my mind, even putting that aside, we're looking at the Airbnb is an issue, and there are city rules, and unless you live on site, but the issue is even the fact that it's I know we're going to say, oh, we just did it temporarily. So I want to hear why going from 3 to 6, even if they're single, and the city does have as a policy, they want to encourage more dwelling units, obviously not Airbnb ones, to encourage more affordable housing. So it does have that benefit. But the wrinkle here is you're in a non-conforming use situation.
Okay.
A non-conforming use, let's say you have a retail use, and if they think it's going from a bar to a restaurant is a step in the right direction, or a bar to a shoe store. So you have to show, to continue your lawful non-conforming status, that you're sort of not making the situation worse. And by definition, going from 3 to 6 units, even if forgetting about the Airbnb, you have to show us why that fits in within the non-conforming use provisions. Okay?
Okay, I want to first address the Airbnb issue. We have not made any money renting it as an Airbnb. We had like one person in January. Like, it sucks. I would never do this again. I hate this Airbnb thing. It's not going to be an Airbnb apartment.
So what you're proposing
we
is
only
to
did
have
it
6
for the
units
renovation.
Instead of 3, they're going to be smaller
Yeah.
units. So arguably, in theory, they'd be more affordable. But the fact is, you're in a non-conforming. This neighborhood does not permit, not even what you're asking for, but what you have now.
Okay,
That's what we
the
wanna
house
hear from
beside us is already a triplex as well.
Right.
You know?
You know if it has non-conforming use status? Probably.
Yeah, it must be the exact same. It's a zigzag.
Right.
We're just
probably built
mirror
at the same
images,
time,
yeah.
yeah.
So, you know, so we're just, I think there's precedent in that, and
So what
there's already
units do they
non-conforming.
have? Do they-
Well, in that, there's already houses on the street, the one right beside,
Right.
that are already triplex, and it was built that way.
Okay.
So, and I bought it that way, you know?
So why should you be able to change it to a 6-plex from a
Yeah,
triplex?
it's typically, you're supposed to, you know, according to the planning act, is it similar to the purpose for what, is the use you're proposing similar to the purpose for which it was used on the day the bylaw was passed?
Yeah.
Or is it more compatible with the uses permitted by the bylaw? So
Okay,
you're going, as Mr. Clark said, you're going in the opposite direction. You're doubling the number of units. 3, I guess, is the non-conforming use were permitted because it predated the bylaw, but you're not, this isn't a similar use to what you have.
Yeah.
Arguably, well, not arguably, it is, there's a larger impact.
Well, it's an interesting unit mix that we're doing. Currently, it's two unit bedroom, no, two bedroom apartments and one bedroom apartment.
Okay.
They're quite large. So we split the top 2 floors as a 2-bedroom and a 1-bedroom. And it fits according to the building codes, so.
True.
And so the top 2 units, and the bottom floor is a 1-bedroom and a bachelor, so.
But your problem, and assuming that was all great and you can accommodate 6 families instead of 3 families, and that's great for the public good because it's affordable housing. But the issue is, and if you were going in the other direction, if you had 6 and said, I want to make them 3, we had an application last week in the annex where it's a 13-room frat house, and they're converting it back to 3, you know, very, very nice apartments. That's a movement in the other direction. You have to satisfy in terms of the wording to fit with the non-conforming use how this is compatible.
Well,
as compatible? 6 units as compatible as 3.
I think we'll find similar tenants. Our unit mix currently is 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 1-bedroom.
Right.
We're having 2-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3 1-bedrooms and 1 bachelor. We're going to get the same tenant profile, young professionals, which is 90% of our tenants.
Right. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Anything else? Do you have any questions for the applicant, or?
There's a letter that says that there are 8 similar buildings on the street, that is triplex buildings on the street. Are there any with more than 3 units?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay.
But I also wanted to point out that, you know, 2 of the people here are our tenants who would have to move out for the renovation, you know. So they raised a lot of this neighborhood awareness.
They have certain rights.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with them.
No, I'm just saying.
With that.
I'm just saying, they're not neighbors. They actually live there.
That's fine.
And they would be directly affected because, of course, they'd have to move out for the
I
renovation.
guess, and someone has, I think the biggest issue, your biggest problem is the fact that you're lawful non-conforming and you're moving in the other direction.
There's an article in the Toronto Star that says we need 10,000 more units.
We do.
Today. It's in the Star today.
But not necessarily on every piece of property in the city.
No, but I think this.
Fit into the fabric of the city. The question.
I think it does because, oh, sorry.
The question here is what you're proposing fitting into the local fabric? I personally don't think it is.
Okay, I think, I'm sorry you don't think that way, but I think because of our unit mix is the same, basically the same as we're just adding more, that's all.
But Mr. Chang, if you were coming here and a triplex was permitted on the street and you just had some variances about parking, let's say, but if six plus was permitted, then you're making a very, very good point. You're creating more affordable housing in the city. These units are overly generously big. You can accommodate twice as many people and satisfy or help out with the Toronto affordable housing crisis. However, because you're non-conforming, that's the difference here. And if all the other 8, as Mr. Granstein said, there's 8 others in the street, then you're looking at all 8 of those other people coming in. Suddenly it's an apartment neighborhood, which is clearly not permitted on this street. That's the problem. Not that we look at precedent.
Parking is an issue.
Yeah.
Clearly, parking is an issue. Variances are required for the parking, so while I appreciate you say there is public transit close by, there are also parking standards required to increase the density on the property, so.
Okay. Okay, any further questions, either for the neighbors or for Mr. Chang, or are we ready for motions?
No.
Okay, is someone ready to bring a motion? Table a motion.
Sorry, go ahead.
All right, I want to make a motion to refuse this application. It seems to me that Mr. Chang has a triplex because it was there prior to the passing of the bylaw. The bylaw, therefore, does not permit a triplex. He's now asking to double the number of units, but he doesn't have sufficient parking, which concerns the neighbors. They're also concerned about the number of units and the precedent would set, particularly having regard to there's 7 other triplexes on this street or in the area that might wish to do the same once this would be established as a precedent. So on those grounds, I move to refuse.
Okay, we have a seconder for the
application.
Okay. Before I think Mr. Granstein raises very good points about that, but I still think the major issue, which makes this easy, not that we want to be difficult and prevent housing, is the fact that you're in a non-conforming situation where you're moving in. It's a textbook situation. You're not moving closer to compliance. You're moving in the other direction. So for that reason, I don't think we have any choice in this situation, irrespective of all the other issues, to deny this application. So all in favor? Thank you. Neighbors, please make sure you fill out one of those right decision request cards. You want a copy of the decision, but even in this case, more importantly, in the event of an appeal, you want to be notified, and TLAB sends their notifications by email. Thank you, and we're now adjourned until 1:30 p.m. for the afternoon sessions.